Bruce Arians here with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During these difficult times, it's important that we all show we care about our community's health. You could spread COVID-19 without knowing it. Wear a mask, wash your hands, keep your distance from each other, stay strong, and go Bucs.
Hello again, everybody. I'm Al Keck. We're coming to you live on Facebook Live. We're on Instagram. We are on the Landry Football Network. We're on YouTube. We're on about every platform you can imagine. And welcome to the Al Keck Show. We are 2 weeks away from the opening of NFL training camps. Can you see Tom Brady and Gronk and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers finally hitting the practice field? Ain't no way. Not in 2 weeks. Just ain't gonna happen. The NFL is mandating that teams hold their camps and their home facilities all in the same place. And you know what it's like right now in the state of Florida. A record 132 deaths today from COVID. 9,100 new cases in the state today alone. I just don't see that markedly changing in the next 2 weeks. And with all that is needed to battle this virus, does anybody really believe that they can hold an NFL training camp any place right now without a bubble again anytime soon? Just ain't gonna happen. So Tom, keep those workouts going at Berkeley Prep, because this team needs all the help it can get with its brand new quarterback, albeit the GOAT. At a time when we all thought that this would slow down by now, this virus is raging all over the country, and there is no end in sight. And with that, welcome to the Al Keck Show. I so wish I had better news, and I so wish that we could really talk about getting ready for football, but it is truly obvious that this virus is raging more than ever. And until it slows down, I don't see any way that the NFL can even start training camp, let alone a season. All right, some business to take care of before we get to our guests. Shaq Barrett has agreed to the franchise tag. We knew that was coming with the Buccaneers, but he has filed a grievance against the NFL or a grievance against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because the Buccaneers have listed him as a linebacker. And Shaq Barrett says he's a defensive end. And the difference here, there's a $2 million difference in what the franchise tags would pay. And the franchise tag would pay just about, I think it's just about $19 million as a defensive end, whereas for a linebacker, it is right around $17 million. So this has happened before. It's basically a formality, and it's basically an opportunity for the Bucs and Shaq Barrett to kind of meet in between. So we'll see what happens. He has until tomorrow afternoon to agree to a long-term deal. If not, it'll be a one-year contract, and it'll be something between the 17 and the $19 million. I have a feeling they will meet in the middle and just agree from there. But we'll have a fascinating show for you tonight on all kinds of fronts. One of my favorite people, my photographer at Channel 28, Brad Davis, will join us. We will have some incredible stories about covering the National Football League, about covering the Bucs, covering sports, and you know what it was like for him to shoot on these sidelines, some of his favorite stadiums and some of his favorite moments. It'll be fun stuff. Kyle Keck every week joins us. He'll fill us in on the National Football League and what's going on, and we'll talk about some different subjects there. And we open things up with a guy that knows Tampa Bay as well as anybody out there. And did we lose him?
We did lose him, yeah.
Oh, did we have him momentarily?
We had him and we lost him. So.
Okay, so go ahead and call him on his phone. and we'll just do this over the phone. So, but anyway, those are three really good guests. We've got Reggie, we've got my son, and we've got Brad Davis, and all of them will have some really good discussions that we can talk about here. Again, getting back to Shaq Barrett. He has until tomorrow, I think it's 4 o'clock. I think it's a 4 o'clock deadline for him to agree to a long-term deal. Don't expect a long-term deal here simply because the Bucs don't know what the salary cap is going to be. No one really knows, especially next year. And so they don't want to get caught up in what could be a very interesting situation here with the salary cap and seeing if the Bucs can make this stuff happen. All right, joining us now by telephone. Oh. Yeah, we are determined to make this happen. And so we got Reg. Reg, we have you by phone. How are you? And are things going well? Reg, are you there? All right, we will try him in just a second here. We'll try him again.
Hello.
Oh, is Reggie there?
There's Reggie with his phone.
Yes. Is Reg there?
You got the wrong number.
Oh, I apologize. Okay. All right. Let me make sure. Maybe I wrote down the wrong number right here.
I got it.
Do you?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to do this with two. Reg.
Hey.
Yes, I'm sorry. We're on live now. And so we'll just do this by phone.
Hey, that's fine.
Okay. Does that work?
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. How you doing? You miss me?
I miss you terribly. I wish I was a little bit more fluent with all this internet stuff and podcasts and all this kind of stuff. But, oh.
You're going to learn, Reg, because you will be doing your own podcast here real soon. So these days you're doing stuff with BL on the BL show on 820. Right. You're doing that in the mornings. Tell us a little bit about that before we get going with everything.
Well, it's a lot of fun. It's, I'm just kind of finding ways to keep active and keep involved, be it television or radio or whatever. And it's a fun show. We get to talk about, current topics and, we have a little fun. We deal with factual stuff, some hard facts, dealing with this coronavirus mess and everything that's upsetting everybody's life. And we keep it easy. We don't try to bash you or hit you in the head with things. So it's a good show. It's a great show.
Okay, now with that, you're as up on this corona stuff as anybody. Do you see any way that the National Football League can have a camp here for the Buccaneers in about 2 weeks?
I really, my gut is like bigger minds, better minds. Than I have facilities and things of that nature. They've had several positive tests with that. So it's like everywhere, any major professional team, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, everywhere they turn, it just seems like there's yet another obstacle. And how do you overcome that to make the game safe for not only the players, but also for the fans? It's just a real hard call to make,
You know the Glazers very well. You have covered this team. You have seen this team for years. When did you get here? You got here in the early 90s, right?
No, 88, 89.
Oh my gosh. So yes, that's right. We got here at the same time. So you know what this team means to this area.
Absolutely.
Your thoughts on when you heard that Tom Brady was coming here, what do you think that really meant to this area and meant to this franchise?
Well, let me not say in jest, but I'm thinking Super Bowl. Maybe I'm reaching, but I mean, the tools that they have in place and the investments that they've made, and by bringing the preeminent passer in the NFL, you know, he's broken every doggone record out there, and he's just a solid, hard-working, you know, professional. It was no doubt in my mind. We've always had a good defense, but I was like, the weapons that he's got to throw to now, that's no way any NFL defense can cover, you know?
Do you remember when Tony got here and the
Yes.
feeling in this area, once they started to win, how much this team meant to this area?
Oh, you know what? It would be such an injection of optimism for the Bay Area to have our football team back on the field winning, to get our minds off of all of the negativity and divisiveness that's going on right now all across the country. Because one thing that people unite behind is a winning team. Black, white, yellow, brown. It doesn't matter. If you're a Buck fan, you're a Buck fan. And, you know, it would get our minds off of this devastation that we've been going through, you know?
Absolutely. Some of your favorite story. Now, you know, you and I traveled a couple times for playoff games with the Bucs. I can remember
Yes.
a cold weekend
Yes.
or a cold week in Philadelphia where they got snow
Oh, yeah.
like you wouldn't believe, and it was cold like you wouldn't
Yeah.
believe. And we had a fun week despite that. And we
tried to.
we tried to have even more fun. We went out, had some great meals.
Yeah.
And we would work in some very cold conditions. And then the day of the game. Okay.
Yes.
Day of the game. What happened on the day of the game and when it came time to go to the game and cover this game? Go ahead, tell everybody.
I think, did I get a little ill?
I think you did, because I get a phone call from the station said Reggie has called in sick. Okay. And so you've got to do news hits along with the sports. So you've got to do both sides. And the fact that they won, you know, no, wait, they lost that game. That's right. They lost that game.
Right.
You know, but we still had to do a bunch of hits. And I went to your room. And
what did I have? I had on the terry cloth robe, I think.
You had the terry cloth robe on, and you were sipping some medicinal adult beverage just to make sure that this
probably a 12 or 17-year-old scotch. That usually helps.
Absolutely. And you were sipping that, and so I just looked at you like, you know, I'm doing extra stuff here, and
really, Randy?
and you're in this robe and we were staying at the Ritz-Carlton.
It was a nice place.
Okay, we were living right, and that was my experience with you, Reggie.
Yeah, yes, it's something that will never be forgotten. But we also look back and just savor the good times, and I also got. It's funny. I leave the South and go up to the Northeast, especially with changes in temperature. I have horrible allergies, and I got sick when the Rays and were we in Philadelphia?
It was Philadelphia for the World Series. I'm sure you were sick at that one. Yeah. No, I was at a different station. Yeah, I was at a different station at that point, and so I just knew.
I got sick on that one.
Yeah, I remember.
And cold.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. I remember seeing you there, and I remember thinking, he will get sick. He will call in sick again. And I want to say it was the first or second game of that series in Philadelphia when it was just cold and raining and miserable. And so I certainly, and I remember I was live on the air when it hit. And that was my worst experience as far as weather in everything I've ever done.
I tell you what, I probably wouldn't be a very good candidate to work with Cantori on the Weather Channel, because if it's cold and rainy, I'm not standing out there.
Reg, you grew up in Miami, right?
Yeah, I'm a Florida boy.
Yeah, okay, makes sense. So you're not going up there in that bad weather. You'll
No,
cover,
I can't
you
handle
know,
it.
if it's warm, you'll cover.
I'll cover it. I'll be all over it. But snow, 22 degrees, no, terry cloth robe, scotch, and recover.
Now, you were absolutely fine, though, when we went out for the steak dinner at Morton's.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
But something just hit me all of a sudden. I don't know what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a great steak, too.
Oh, it was one of the best meals we've ever had. It really was.
That's right.
One other story that I'm just going to tell about Reggie, about how good. I have never seen a human being that can take quick naps, cat naps, better than anybody. I mean, Reggie is absolutely the best. And you would walk into back then the newsroom at Channel 10, and again, I haven't been there in 20 years, so I have no idea. But back then, you had a neat little cubicle, kind of hidden. And I'm saying right about 9 o'clock, you would do some teases or something like that. But between then and the 11 o'clock show, you didn't have that much to do. And so you would take these cat naps. And I would walk by you, and you would have your feet up on the desk, and you would be out. Just, absolutely out. And it would be 15 minutes, and that would be it. And then you'd wake up, and you were refreshed. You were ready to go, and you had it down. Yes.
Absolutely. And you know what the thing is? If you take them longer than 15, 20, 30 minutes, you're kind of sluggish. But I could come out of that quick nap. As a matter of fact, when we went to do the last launch at Cape Canaveral, and Melissa was with me, the producer.
Melissa Lieberman.
We were just working and turning packages and this and that, and it started to rain a little bit, and she got a snapshot of me sitting in the satellite truck with my red Channel 10 jacket, all wet, soggy, and my head's down, and I'm sitting and my head down. I was taking a cat nap real quick before the next live shot.
Absolutely. And I could see you doing that, especially considering that most people could not do that in that amount of time. And especially with, how up you have to get and how ready you have to get, but you had that capabilities. And, I mean,
I could turn it on like a light bulb, turn it on, turn it off, turn it right back on.
And I'm sure I could have gotten some pictures of you that would be even interesting now on the internet.
Probably. Oh my goodness.
That was,
we had a good run when we were working together over there. We had a good team and a good run.
Yes. I mean, the fun thing was that you and me and Sue Zelenko got along so very well. And it was just, it didn't matter the night. It didn't matter what was going on in the world. It didn't matter what was going on in the newsroom and all the craziness.
Right.
We had fun. We were laughing. We were laughing the whole time.
But I think what has transformed at that station now is it's undescribable, because I talk with Charles Belay and other people that work there, and it was such a wonderful time. Teamwork, people didn't mind putting in 110%, this and that. But right now it's just, wow, in the last few years, I was like, wow, this place has just totally changed. And like a malaise was over the newsroom. And it wasn't fun, but I did my job,
There you go. Donovan Smith, getting back to the Bucs. Donovan Smith, their starting left tackle. And a key man on that offensive line has come out and said that he's not sure with this COVID and the fact that he and his wife are going to have a baby here in about 3 weeks. He's not sure he's going to be willing to play this season because of all the craziness going on. Just doesn't know how safe it could be for his family. In a case like that, your thoughts on that? How do you feel about what he said when he, said that he's not sure he'll be able to play?
I don't think he's the only one that's not sure, because, every day I'm reading information, they're not really sure as far as transmission by air, just simple breathing or coughing or sneezing. The droplets, how long do they survive? How long do they last? What if somebody coughs and I walk through the cloud and touching? And I mean, football is a contact sport. Blood, sweat, dirt, shouting, screaming, sweating, spitting. I mean, you're talking about a cluster, that I understand his reasoning. And he, first and foremost, he's a professional football player, but he is thinking about family first. And that's a real tough call. I mean, how do you make sure that the guys you put on each side of the line are healthy? Or if someone may be asymptomatic, no symptoms whatsoever, I feel great, I look great, and he's carrying the virus. It's going to be a tough call. And you know what, Al? I'm going to tell you something. I don't think we'll ever see normal again for years. I don't think we're going to see normal. Normal is, man, let's go get a burger. Let's go down and have a drink. Hey, let's go to the ball game. 50,000 people screaming and hollering. And at basketball, I mean, you got them enclosed, breathing and shouting and screaming. It's not going to be normal for a while. And I think it has changed the way, or we're going to have to change the way that we do things. We really going to have to take a close look.
And I think in this business, in our business, the days of going into a locker room, I don't think you'll see that anymore. I think.
Oh no, I don't think so. They'll have some very long mic poles sticking in the door.
Yes,
that's about it.
And even doing what we would, and we had a term for it when we would do interviews where everyone would gather around a guy. I'm not going to say that term, but right. You know what I'm talking about. I think those days are over, where everyone, all the media just, comes upon that one guy or that one person and on top of each other. Yeah. 8, 9,
that's not going to happen anymore.
8, 9 mics. That is over. Any fun stories about Tony or Sapp or
well, I remember. All right, Warren Sapp was one of my favorite Buck players. I mean, he was a QB killer, and he got such a bad rap on some things. And he was one that he was his own man, and he did his own thing. He was a great player. But I remember doing a charity thing with him and a couple other ball players over at 717 over there in Tampa. Beautiful restaurant there.
Absolutely.
So everybody was so apprehensive about approaching or saying anything or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. And he hated a lot of guys at our station in the sports department. But for some reason, I walked in and he looked, and I put up the U because I'm from Miami. I put up the U. He says, "Come over here, Roundtree." I said, and everybody was just like, "Oh my God." And we're just talking and laughing and taking pictures and backslapping. I mean, I don't know. The guy was an anomaly. Some days he had good days, some days he had bad days, but he's human. You don't know what kind of day somebody's having, but he was always kind to me, and he was probably the most preeminent defense player the Bucs have ever had.
Well, certainly at that time, and he was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. Reg, I just had a great time just reminiscing with you. Thank you again for taking the time to join me this evening. And
yeah, absolutely.
Anytime I'm
out here walking the yard, walking the dog, talking to you, having a good time.
There you go. And I will teach you how you can do your own podcast. And
please do, because I'm just sitting at that computer, and I got a nice new Apple computer, big 30-inch monitor, and I can't do a darn thing on the doggone thing.
Oh, there you go. I will teach you, and you will make it will be more successful than working with BL.
Oh, you're crazy.
And it'll be nicer. And it'll be nicer.
I hear you, brother. I hear you.
Reg, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Al. You take care of yourself.
Okay. Reginald Roundtree.
All right, brother.
Joining us, talking about the old days at Channel 10. All right. I want to bring Peter Blake in. And Peter, I so appreciate you're doing everything you can, trying to keep everyone together. And we're doing some different things here.
Absolutely.
And so you're doing a great job. I want to do a quick poll.
Okay.
Quick poll. And for you web heads out there, just DM us and tell us your thoughts and what you think. But especially right now, as we're getting to the point to where maybe there will be sports coming back, the NBA's in its bubble. The NHL will be starting the playoffs soon up in Canada. Baseball. And then you never know when the Bucs will get going, especially with training camp. I want to know everyone's thought on the best sports bar out there. Okay. So just DM us with your thoughts. And I just want to get, just kind of a look on this. And what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Do you want to see some of these comments? Because they're really killing it tonight. You got Milo Jackson who says Al Keck's looking like Magnum PI. You got Cornell who says Go Bucks. Christopher Cole, hey, what's up, guys? David Searles, he needs a mustache. So ever think about growing a mustache, Al Keck?
It would be so gray that I'm not sure.
Nelson Cruz says, Al, thanks for all you do. Go Bucks. Bucks Report, ask Reggie. Tony says, I love my Buccaneers. Ask Reggie what style socks he's wearing tonight. We missed that one. Al is wearing his best Rodney Dangerfield shirt tonight. Unlike Rodney, Al does get the respect. Christopher Cole thinks Major League Baseball actually cost the Rays the World Series. Lisa says, Go Bucks. Brenda BL, my men, yes. And that's it from the comments section. So definitely, webheads, get on here. Al Keck, I mean, you have the Keckers. You could go with the Keckers here. Keckers, get on here and tell him, the Tampa Bay sports broadcasting legend, what is the best sports grill out there.
Yes. And since it's my show, I'm going to come up with the very first one out there. And I like a place called Deck Bar and Grill out in Isla del Sol. As you're going out towards Fort Soto Park, or let's see, the Don Cesar, and you're on that
Best
bayway there.
Sports grill out there.
As you're going out towards Fort Soto Park, are you hearing that? Are you hearing that? The Don Cesar, and you're on that bayway there. Cedric, here we go. Okay, Cedric, are you with me?
I am with you. How you doing, Al?
Hello, Cedric.
Hello.
Okay, very good. Okay.
We good?
I'm good. I want to put on the manager at the Deck Bar and Grill, my favorite sports bar out there. Cedric Robinson is the manager. And Cedric, tell us about the Deck. Tell us, I know the stuff. Brag about your place a little bit and tell us what you think you guys offer that no one else does.
Okay, before I do that, I just want to say hello to Reggie. I haven't seen Reggie in 20 years. He used to come into my other restaurant, the Hops Bar and Grill, and tell him I still can make a good white Russian for him. So love Reggie, man. Miss you on Channel 10. Just want to tell you guys that grew up watching sports. So you were my #1 sports station. So let's talk about sports. We are a sports bar. We're called The Deck. We have a huge deck outside our restaurant. So as far as we're going through the whole COVID-19 situation, we have plenty of space and area for you to sit outside. We're moving TVs outside in the hopes that football does come. We had a great season last year, our first year open. We do support all the local teams, including the Bucs, the Lightning, and the Rays, of course. But when it comes to the Buccaneers, that's my home team. Started watching them in 1976, and we want to make sure that we put all our effort into being one of the best sports bars in Pinellas County and definitely on the southern Pinellas Point down there by St. Pete Beach and the Don Cesar and all that good stuff down there. So we carry a wide array of food. Our menu is freshly made, almost 80% fresh coming out of our kitchen. Plenty of beers for you to enjoy, specialty drinks, and about 25 TVs. Got a 160-inch projection screen TV taking up the biggest part of my wall out there. Another 100-inch TV and another separate sports room where you can hold private parties. So we're all about sports right here at the Deck out in Isla. So we hope that someone will come out. You guys will come out and enjoy the time. Like I said, we have plenty of space outside. We do practice our social distancing. Of course, all the employees are wearing masks at that time, but we want you to be able to still enjoy the sports season when it comes back. So we're getting very prepared for that. We're also part of the Bucs crew. So on every Sunday during halftime, we have a raffle and we give away Bucs home tickets. So come on, how can you beat that? That's a good sports bar. Burgers, pizza, seafood, man. You have a good time at our place.
Now, that's why I said this is my favorite sports bar. So the Keck Bar and Grill. Now, you're right off the water. Can people come in on their boats?
They can, but the only thing is that we sit right at the edge of the Isla del Sol Yacht and Country Club. So it is a private club, but you can make arrangements to leave your boat there and walk directly into our sports bar. We're sitting right there. Very scenic, very beautiful area. If you've never played the course out there at Isla, take it. It is a beautiful course. It's right on the water of the Gulf of Mexico right there and attached to St. Pete Beach. So come on, you know, Al, you know how the southern Pinellas County is and the beaches and Tierra Verde and all that area down. It's a fun area. It's a beautiful place to come.
Beautiful way to combine sunshine, the water, football, sports, and great food. What do you think what's your favorite dish that you guys serve?
Okay, well, we have a black and prime rib sandwich. It is an 8-ounce cut of A1 prime rib. We blacken it, we charbroil it, we put on an Amoroso roll, man. Comes with some horseradish cream sauce on the side. Our fries are considered the best. If you've never had our French fries, nice and crispy and thin. I think we can stick with McDonald's on this one, honestly, if you want to know the truth. But other than that, we have so many things to choose from. Nice burgers, great seafood. You can't go wrong. We made sure the menu was out there for everyone. Nice fresh dishes for you to have. And the best thing about our bar is that we're a Key West style bar, which means we're open on two sides of our bar. So you never feel closed in. Nice and open and breezy coming off that water. You can't really miss it. And like I said, we're big Bucs supporters. So we want to make sure that all our Bucs fans and all the other football fans that come out have a nice, comfortable, safe environment to enjoy the games at.
All right. You talk about 20 TVs, a great menu. Cedric, you've sold me. And so
I hope to see you.
I will bet we'll do a lot more with you. Cedric Robinson from the Deck Bar and Grill is Del Sol. You've got to go out there even before some of this, sports starts coming back. If you just want to go and get something to go and, head over to the beach and take it to go order, it's really is a great.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but also in the interim, while we don't have sports, we do carry live music, local performers that perform from Thursday through Sunday, every day out on the deck. We have karaoke out on the bar. We have musical bingo. We have plenty of events to keep you engaged with us and out there in that beach area. Okay, so sports is coming back. I know it's going to. It's the American way. We got to have our sports, man. We got to have our Bucs back. This is our year to go to the Super Bowl in our hometown. They can't take it away from us.
All right. Cedric, I like your style, and I love that prime rib sandwich. All right, Cedric, thanks for joining us. I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Thank you, Al.
All right, from the Deck Bar and Grill, Isla del Sol, you are talking Cedric Robinson. And again, my favorite sports grill out there, sports bar out there. Peter Blake, what are some of the web heads putting out some of their own favorites out there?
We really haven't gotten a response, but somebody actually said is the man. So they're just watching you right now.
That's awesome.
And they love Cedric. So we have to have them on.
Well, they love that grill.
Absolutely.
Again, the Deck Bar.
Sounds great, doesn't it?
You got to go out there. It's incredible.
You know me and food, how that works, right?
Oh, yeah. And this is a good place.
Okay.
All right. How we doing on Brad? Is Brad in? Okay. Now, this next segment is totally for me. No one else out there. I get a chance to talk with a great friend, a guy I probably spent more time with than my family during the years. My photographer at Channel 28. We probably went to every Bucs game for 8 or 9 years straight, and every sporting event that you can imagine here in the Tampa Bay area. And he joins us now. Brad Davis. Brad, I know you miss working with me.
I do, Al. I do. A lot of the inside stories, the jokes, the one-liners, a lot of the things that make a relationship last and a lifetime of friendship. It's, as they say, it's not just between the white lines. It goes well beyond that.
Well, he's been a long time. In fact, I think he was one of the very first hires at Channel 28 when Channel 28 decided to do news. And so he's been here ever since then. And I'm just going to tell one quick story just to kind of set the tone here. One of the things that we did a lot of high school football. And I remember one night we're out in Seminole, and Seminole was a long ways from our studios in, our studios are right next to Raymond James Stadium. So Seminole High School, long drive. So we covered the game, big game. We're leaving, and we get to a spot to where we're going to do a live. We're going to feed this package back, microwave it. Okay. So we still have to edit it. We've got to establish a signal. We've got to do all that stuff. And again, it's getting to be, this is at 11:15. So we got to get this thing in. And so we get it done, and you're calling in to, start the microwave and to send this thing in. And the tape that we've just edited is in the record deck, ready to go. And you took a tape that had gotten in your way, and you just tossed it to get it out of your way as you're trying to bring this shot in and the whole bit. Somehow, some way, that tape hit the record button on the machine. You remember this?
I didn't until you just said that, but I remember moving the, each tape had its box, and, there's a lot of stuff on that small little counter. And I do remember that now. I just moved the tape out of the way and, tossed something aside, and it hit the record button and taped over, the first 10, 15 seconds till we caught it?
Yeah. So we had to redo the start of this. And again, we're maybe 4 minutes away from feeding, if that. But, I mean, if we stood there, for 3 days, we could not fire a tape and hit that button if we tried.
It was definitely a Murphy's Law moment. And, today we can feed stuff over, the internet and with a hotspot. But back then we had the microwave truck, the mast went 40 feet in the air, and you had to tune it in manually to the, line of sight to the receive site. And that was cumbersome, because Seminole's kind of a little bit down in a little gully there. And we were trying to feed the signal over to Riverview, and that even took a little bit of extra time to tune that in. So, boy, you got a good mind there. I forgot about that one.
Oh, it was
a lot of others.
Yeah, it was just crazy. What were your thoughts? Because again, since you got here and since Channel 28 started, you have been a part of covering things here in the Tampa Bay area. What were your thoughts when you heard that Tom Brady was officially a Buccaneer?
I didn't want to believe it at first, but Bruce Arians is kind of a quiet guy in the background, so to speak. He's not a quiet guy, but I thought that there was really kind of an outside chance, and then the more you kind of heard the talk ramp up, it kind of became more reality. But it still doesn't seem real because there's been no OTAs, no mini camps, no press conferences. So it's kind of like, is he really a Buccaneer? And he is under contract, and he's, it's well documented his, getting kicked out of the public park for exercising and, going into Leftwich's house, or trying to go into Byron Leftwich's house. It just doesn't seem real because we haven't seen him in action. And, to think that Tom Brady at the end of last season, longtime quarterback of the Patriots, and all the questions surrounding Jameis Winston and whether he would be back, it just seemed like such a long shot. But then as it got closer, and the reality was that he was coming here and they did sign him, it's still hard to believe until we see him on the field. And we certainly want to cross our fingers and hope, because this franchise has had some odd things happen, over the years, some odd things. And we certainly hope we want to see Tom Brady, number 12, under center, taking snaps for this football team, whether it's in front of fans, in a shortened season or whatever it is. But that whole picture has me very concerned with this virus.
All right. Your thoughts on this, because, you're out in the field every day and what's going on in the area. They're supposed to open training camp the 28th. Do you see any way that this season could start on time?
No, that's my opinion. You know, a lot of stuff goes on in the background and behind the scenes. But when you have a guy like Donovan Smith, who is, you know, the backside protector of Tom Brady, or is projected to be, coming out and saying these things about his concerns with, you know, his health and everybody else's health in the league. And it's kind of like, you know, baseball, I think, shot itself in the foot a little bit by these agreements taking so long to come together, and they were public about, you know, the money and when they would start, and some players didn't want to take a pay cut. But, you know, when Donovan Smith comes out and says this, I support his feelings about how his stance is regarding his family. He said, I'm a father, or I'm going to be a father. I'm a son. I'm a husband. I'm a person. I'm a man. You know, everyone wants to see the football, but as the saying goes, you know, we all want to gamble with somebody else's chips. And I'm not so sure that some of these players are willing to step forward under the current conditions. You know, a lot of that stuff might be attempted to be ironed out in the background. But as far as what we know, I don't see the season starting on time. I think that there's a lot of issues that have to be resolved. And, you know, you started telling the story about the high school football, and I just want to say that high school football, I've shot a lot of NFL football on the sidelines, a lot of college football on the sidelines, and a heck of a lot of high school football. And high school football is still one of the great sports to cover on a Friday night. The emotion is so raw. And, you know, you've seen it. You see some of these kids that aren't ever going to see the field, their uniforms perfectly starched and, you know, no stains on it. And they're having the time of their life supporting their teammates. And it's, I feel for some of these kids in high school, you know, regardless of the sport, that aren't able to complete what will be, you know, their final seasons of their lives playing a certain sport. So when you said high school football, it just really made me think about how special that sport is in all the high school sports, because of the raw emotion and the, you know, the opportunity to play at such level.
You know, interesting here, because you have shot high school football in Florida and Ohio, two of the biggest states for high school football outside of Texas. How do they compare?
Wow. You know, a lot of the people are going to say that, you know, like Ohio State in the early 90s, you know, they thought it was the Woody Hayes 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and they could never keep up with the speed of the SEC. And, you know, in some respects, that's true. But I think Ohio football stands on its own. It's a different, maybe not as wide open. You know, I haven't been there in 26 years on a high school football sideline in Ohio. But the talent level is certainly the same. You know, Luke Fickell, who's the head coach at the University of Cincinnati, I covered him when he was in high school at Columbus DeSales, and then he went on for a great career at Ohio State as a nose tackle. And, you know, I was criticized for liking his team during those times because they were very boring, but they were very disciplined, and they would just come up to the line and run their bread and butter, a lot like Armwood did in the Sean Callahan days. You know, they would just wear you down with their technique and their discipline and not make mistakes. And, you know, the two states have so many different varying type of athletes. I think that you'd find some blue chip skilled position players like wide receivers, running backs, and, you know, the Bosa brothers at Ohio State, you know, although not local, you know, there's just such a talent level in both states that you can't really pick one or the other. And I'm not going to fall into that trap tonight.
All right. Final question here for you. What was your
final? I thought we were going to talk for an hour. I'm kidding.
Well, you know, here's the thing. I've got a show after mine, and so we can only go so long here. But
I understand. I'm kidding you.
But, you know, you and I, you know, we could talk on the phone after this, and, you know, I'll just relay all this information. No, that's okay. What was your favorite road trip in the NFL?
Wow. That's a great question. My favorite stadium, without a doubt, is Lambeau Field.
Right.
You know, we both had a coworker for a while that, you know, when I like to get to the stadium early. I like to get up on game day and have a meal and early, and then I like to get to the stadium 3-4 hours ahead of time And that former coworker would say, "Why do you want to get there so early?" Well, sometimes I would walk around the outside of Lambeau Field and, just take in all the excitement of those fans cooking their brats. And there's just something about that venue. But, one of my favorite trips was the Super Bowl in San Diego, obviously, because the team won. It was an exhausting time. We went straight to Philadelphia after they beat the 49ers and was gone from home for 16 days. But that was just a magical time. I remember I was in the end zone when Allstott scored on 96 Power King, as our friend John Gruden used to say. And, to think that woeful 0-16 franchise, I was witnessing a touchdown, the first Super Bowl touchdown in team history. It just kind of hit me that, like, they had come a long way. And I felt so fortunate to be along for the ride and to see, when they have those, the banner hangings for the Ring of Honor, and you look around and you're like, wow, there's Rondé, there's Mike, there's Derek, there's Warren, there's John Lynch. You see all these faces and names, and you think, man, you used to stand there in the hallway at Old One Buck while Jose Garcia would be making a turkey Cuban, and Tony Dungy would actually say, no, go ahead. When you try and say, Coach, go ahead. And he was so kind. It was really a special time to be around that team and that franchise. And sometimes when you're in the midst of it, you're thinking about things like, what story are we doing today? What's my deadline? And then, as the years pass and you look back and you say, wow, we were really fortunate to witness and be a part of. And, Tony used to tell us, hey, man, it's all of us. You guys are part of it. We didn't, do the X's and O's, but, there was a culture that he created there and he welcomed you into it.
Really cool. Really cool. Brad Davis, this has been fun. We're going to have you on again. I would love for you to take time, and we'll talk about some other stories, but thanks for taking the time tonight. You've got a busy life, and it was a pleasure. All right.
Anytime, Al. All you got to do is text me, and I'll be there for you, brother.
All right. Thanks so much, Bradley. Thank you again. And we had a lot of fun. Brad Davis from Channel 28, and you can see him about every Buck game working the sidelines. No one works harder than this guy carrying his stuff all over. All right. So what's going on with the rest of the NFL? My son is plugged into everything, believe me, and joining us now from outside Chicago, my son, Kyle Keck. My man, what's the latest on this Washington nickname situation?
Oh boy, it's getting sticky. So they announced yesterday that they were officially going to change the name. Dan Snyder and Ron Rivera were gonna head. They were going to spearhead what the new name change was going to be. And the Vegas odds are out. They've been changing daily. If for the gamblers out there, for who they think that new team name might be. And some of the top ones, we've got the Washington Red Tails or Red Clouds. We've got the Washington Warriors, the Presidents, the Americans, the Monuments. We even have the Hogs on there. It'd be an interesting one. But it got a little extra sticky today when word came out that a very smart realtor in the Washington, D.C. area decided to buy the trademarks for about almost every top Washington name that is out there. So that made things a little extra sticky because he's either going to get a fat check if they decide to choose one of those top names, or they're not going to be able to use one of those names at all. So he's trademarked the Washington Red Wolves, the Washington Tribe, the Red Tails, which we've been hearing the Warriors, the Red Wolves, and the Red Tails are from what I've been hearing, are the top ones. I've been seeing a lot of uniform leaks and stuff like that for those names. So things got a little extra sticky with what that new name might be.
I mean, they've got the Washington Nationals for baseball. Why not just go with the Washington Americans?
Yeah.
And go from there. The one name I do not want is the Washington Generals, because most people forget, because many are way too young, but every time I actually played for the Washington Generals because every time the Harlem Globetrotters would play a game, the team that they would play and the team that they would beat would be the Washington Generals.
Yep.
And the Washington Generals have probably the worst record in the history of competition. So, yeah, I just hope they don't go the Washington Generals route.
Yeah, the Americans makes a little too much sense to me. So, but we'll see. Dan Snyder has a way of messing things up. So, I don't think Washington fans are too excited to know that it's Dan Snyder that's going to be figuring what this new team name is going to be. But moving on around the league, we've got a couple of signings today. We had, or at least one that's getting close to being signed. The Browns coming to terms on an extension, a monster extension with Myles Garrett. It's 5 years, $125 million. So that would be an extra $25 million per year than what he's already currently making. Garrett coming off of a huge suspension from pounding his helmet on the head of Mason Rudolph on that, was it a Monday night game? Nationally televised, extremely scrutinized for that. And it's interesting that they shell out that kind of money. Are the Browns ever going to change? Is anything going to change what the Browns have been doing?
Good question. I mean, Kevin Stefanski appears to be the guy that if anything can change, he will be the guy that'll bring about the change. There's no doubt about the talent that the Cleveland Browns have. It's been everything else. And, Baker Mayfield certainly didn't have a good second season. There will be incredible pressure on him coming up for this season. Mm-hmm. And so everyone, I think, in Cleveland is fairly low-key optimistic that, if the bullseye isn't on them this year, that's good. And they hope to finally have a winning season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the other signings of today, the other big one, Chris Jones, defensive tackle that was looking to get franchise tagged there in Kansas City, was the anchor point of their defense, helped them win that Super Bowl. He signed a 5-year, $85 million deal after the Chiefs just shelled out a heck of a lot of money to Pat Mahomes. So speaking of the Chiefs, that makes me want to segue into a little fun thing that we can talk about here. We'll go buy or sell on a couple topics. So I'll shoot you a topic. You tell me buy if you think that it's spot on. If you think it's going to happen, you tell me sell if it's no way.
Okay, right? We've got 2 minutes here, bud. So
all right, first one: Chiefs and Mahomes era. More Super Bowls than Brady and Patriots?
No,
that's not
going to happen. No.
Okay. Sticking on the Patriots, do the Patriots win the AFC East this year?
I think they will, and I think that they'll get just enough play offensively that they're going to make that happen. And, other than Buffalo, I mean, although the Jets could be improved, they were better at the end of last season. Dolphins could be improved. And Buffalo is supposed to be really good this year. But I think the Patriots still have enough in the tank.
Yeah.
In order. What about you? What do you think?
I agree. I think they're going to be a little bit better than other people think. They're now with Cam Newton, they're going to be able to play an offense that they haven't been able to play for the last 20 years. So next one, Cam Newton, does he finish the 2020 season as a top 10 quarterback?
Oh gosh. I've always been a Cam Newton fan because I've seen Cam Newton do some amazing things. So I would never count him out, especially with Josh McDaniels. I think Cam Newton, if he's healthy, and the key is if he's healthy, I think he could be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think top 15 it would be the worst that he would do, in my opinion. Going into Bucs specific, Bucs, are they the top scoring offense in 2020? Buy or sell?
I think they will be. Again, the key is the offensive line. And so if they could do what they did with Jameis, what can they do with Tom Brady, with the GOAT? I like that. Yeah.
Two more really quick.
One more.
Okay. Okay. Now we're talking about NFL. If they delay the season, if the season does get delayed, opening kickoff, is it Thanksgiving Day?
You know what? You may have something there. We'll
all be super thankful. Sports is back. Thanksgiving Day. Get the, maybe a couple extra games of what we normally would have.
Yeah.
Maybe Thanksgiving Day is the day if they delay.
Yeah, I like the way you think there, my man. That could very well be with the way things are going. Hey, thanks for joining us, bud.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I miss you. I love you, and we'll talk next week.
All right, love you too.
All right. I close every show with a special memory from covering sports here in the Tampa Bay area since 1988. And since we were talking about Washington, my huge memory I want to talk about very briefly today is covering the Bucs playing in Washington. The first time I went into RFK Stadium, I felt like this is the National Football League. The atmosphere at RFK was unlike any other stadium. I mean, NFL football more than any other stadium I'd ever been to. It's a blast to stand at the front gate. And I used to do this. I would stand at the front gate and watch the limos pull up, and some of the most powerful people in our country, in the world, would get out of these limos to go watch this game, and all would forget just how important that they are. They were simply football fans, and they would just simply take that game in as fans. Here's hoping that with a new nickname, there will be a new pride in this team, in our nation's capital, and that the NFL will be fun again in Washington, D.C. All right, we'll see you next week. I'd like to thank Reggie Roundtree, Brad Davis, Kyle Keck, the Deck Bar and Grill, my producer, Peter Blake, and, of course, Keith Larson and the Bucs Report. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for your patience. We'll see you next week, and stay healthy.
Bruce Arians here with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During these difficult times, it's important that we all show we care about our community's health. You could spread COVID-19 without knowing it.
Is the number one cause of death for men and women. No wonder staying heart healthy is so very important these days. And Gabe,
I'm with Dr. Bob here at the offensive line mastermind camp. We've all been pretty cautious here with masks, but we've also been getting tested. Robert, tell us about what kind of test we're going to do right now.
We're doing the PCR test. It is a nasal swab. Here is the exact swab we'll be using. Mr. Baldinger has agreed that HIPAA compliant, but he's going to tell everybody. Yep. We're going to go in each nostril for 10 seconds, do a swab, go there. It's a lovely experience.
Yeah. Yabby dabby do.
Relax, please. If you cough, sneeze. It's not pleasant. Retwirl. Breathe out of your mouth, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Here we go, second nostril.
Let's go. Yabba dabba do.
We'll be doing this at every training camp that you go to, Brian.
Yeah.
We'll be testing you, making sure you're safe for your mother as long as the players.
Oh, she's so bad.
Go ahead and sneeze. Vin, thank you very much. And Shreg, I'm coming after you.
Okay. Not too bad. Nothing to be afraid of, nothing to be fearful of. And Robert, you've been able to get these test results back almost within 24 hours, correct?
Yes, we got a great lab that does it for us. We're going to make sure everybody's safe. Thank you very much.
And that's the testing that's going on, and hopefully around the league this year. trying to keep the players safe, trying to find out, who's got the virus and who doesn't, and try and keep it that way. I think I just wanted to be like the guinea pig here today, but I've been tested now 6 different times.
Here with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During these difficult times, it's important that we all show we care about our community's health. You could spread COVID-19 without knowing it. Wear a mask, wash your hands, keep your distance from each other, stay strong, and go Bucs.
Realizing my potential has been what my career has been all about. Things that I've dreamed about have actually come true.
And the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
Things have happened in my life as I kind of hoped they would happen. It's been, just a complete evolution. You know, how I just kept kind of fighting and clawing to continue to power forward. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you keep trying to make progress. So when I look at over 20 years, I look how far I've come. But there's not one step that I took where I realized, look how far I've come. But those series of steps that I put together, I go, wow, that's quite a journey.
You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of the evolution of Sports Talk Television. Thanks a lot to the Keck Show. Trying to get a quick change in there on Bucs Report. Again, I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. And as we always start off the Sports Web, bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. On tonight's show, of course, we're going to take your phone call, 727-255-0391. And we got a very special guest who we're really not going to waste any time getting in here. Nationally syndicated host of NBC Sports Radio, of course, ESPN, and now a part of the Landry Football Network, Mr. Scott Seidenberg. Thank you very much. All right, there we are. You got to love technology sometimes live here on Bucs Report. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. You've been on NBC Sports Radio. You've also been on ESPN, and now you're a part of the Landry Football Network. Go ahead and tell everybody about what's going on with the Landry Football Network and about yourself here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television.
Yeah, so we are going to be live on Twitch. We have a Twitch channel, Chris Landry Football. LandryFootball.com is your resource for all things football, right? And Chris Landry is a former NFL scout, coach, consultant, works with many college football programs and NFL teams still to this day, former director of the Scouting Combine. And he is just a resource of all things football. And Chris and I have been working together for years doing football podcasts. We do the college football film room and the pro football film room. And we've partnered up with Twitch to start a Twitch channel. And we're looking to make this Twitch channel your resource for football on Twitch. And it's not just our shows, it's your show, it's other shows. We are packing this channel with 24-hour programming. It's just going to be nonstop football and sports talk all over the Chris Landry Football Twitch channel.
And that's what we kind of tried tonight, Scott. We were playing highlights while I was getting set up here, so we didn't end the stream because I hate starting up the stream again, and I'm kind of disappointed. I want to get as much time on this channel with the Twitch channel and, of course, the Chris Landry Football Network. So getting into it, I think all eyes are on Tom Brady. Did you ever think, and I always ask this to all the guests here on the Sports Web, the evolution of Sports Talk Television, did you ever think in a million years that Tom Brady was going to be the starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
No. And for me, all along, it was either going back to the Patriots or retirement. And I know everyone wanted to talk about the other potential suitors that were out there. I just didn't see it for Tom Brady because I felt that at his age, given the success that he has had throughout his entire career, why would this man want to essentially start over? Now, I know Tom Brady is always one to accept challenges, and his body age is much different than his numerical age, right? The guy can play for a few more years. But I just felt that why leave a situation where he was so comfortable, he knew the offense like the back of his hand, he was the de facto coordinator on the field, And yes, were there growing frustrations with the Patriots? Sure. Did they do a bad job of putting talent around him? Absolutely. And I'm talking about in recent years, not obviously the success they had several years ago. But I think maybe it came to a point where Tom was willing to say, I need a change of scenery. And he looked for the best situation out there. And Tampa Bay provided him the best situation out there with a coach that he respects, with an offensive unit that has plenty of talent. He can step in right away and have immediate success. And I think that was the ultimate determining factor for him.
Do you think that it's a good marriage? Because I remember Jason Light talking about this, a great marriage between Coach Arians and Tom Brady, of course, Arians working with Peyton Manning and other quarterbacks in the past. Do you think Tom Brady has lost it, or do you think Arians can get something out of him and possibly Brady could have a comeback story? Because a lot of people talk about him, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. But, once again, Scott, you mentioned it, only one running back, one wide receiver. And now you're going to just a plethora of weapons in a Mike Evans, a Chris Godwin, O.J. Howard, Gronkowski. It could be a comeback year for Brady, right?
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call it a comeback because it's not like he went anywhere. It's not like Tom Brady has fallen off a cliff. He's still one of the most elite quarterbacks in the NFL. And sure, everyone wants to talk about the Mahomes and Russell Wilson and all these other great guys, and that's fantastic. Of course, they're all much different quarterbacks than Tom Brady. But when the game is on the line, the proverbial gun to your head, you need a quarterback to get you down the field and put you into field goal range or to score that touchdown to win. Who else are you taking besides Tom Brady? You have faith that he's going to get the job done because that's what he's done throughout his entire career. And I think with the plethora of weapons that you mentioned that he has on the Bucs, a coach in Bruce Arians that's going to allow him to do what he wants to do, a coordinator in Byron Leftwich who is, from all accounts, one step away from becoming a head coach in the NFL. I do believe that this is going to be a successful year for Tom Brady, specifically for the fantasy numbers for all the players around him. But if you want to talk wins and losses, I think the opportunity is there for this Bucs team, especially with the expanded playoff field.
And we're on with Scott Seidenberg here of Landry Football Network, nationally syndicated host of ESPN Radio, NBC Sports Radio, here on the Sports Web, the evolution of sports talk television. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. You talk about Gronkowski. He's missed a year. A lot of doubt about his health, but it certainly seems like he's going into a perfect situation, not only knowing Brady, but also having an O.J. Howard and a Cameron Brate, who are two pretty good tight ends. Do you feel like Gronkowski can also return to prominence after that year off?
Yeah, so this is the best situation for Gronk because the year off obviously is completely helped his body to recover from all the injuries that he's been dealing with. And this is a guy who gets beat up on every single play. The thing that I like about the Tampa Bay Bucs and what they have in their tight end room is that you don't have to ask Rob Gronkowski to block. You don't have to ask him to get in there and really take the pounding that he was doing when he was with the New England Patriots, because you have other guys that you can do that with. You could bring in Gronk for just specific packages and line him up in the slot, line him up out wide. If he's down in a three-point stance, he can go out for a pass. I just think that they'll utilize him in a way that's going to preserve his body and really maximize the time that you get with him on the field.
Yeah, and to me, you're exactly right, because that's what they have to look at. They have to actually, say to themselves, we may not get a full year out of him, so that's the reason why you pick up the fifth-year option in O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. Who's the guy that steps up in this offense? For me, it's O.J. Howard. For you, who is it? Is it Chris Godwin kind of had a breakout year last year? Is it O.J. Howard? Is it Cameron Brate? Who would you pick out of that tight end class? Or is it somebody else we're not talking about, maybe a Tyler Johnson or Scotty Miller?
Yeah, I really like Chris Godwin a lot. And it's not just because of the fantasy numbers. It's not just because he's a guy who's helped me, make the playoffs and have fantasy football success in the past. But there's going to be so much attention on Mike Evans. We already know that. He is the elite of the elite, right? And he has surpassed guys like Odell Beckham Jr. We just know that it's Michael Thomas, it's Michael Evans. These are the guys that are on top of the NFL in terms of the wide receiver rankings. And I think that there's a lot of attention that's going to be given to Evans. There's also going to be a lot of attention that's going to be given to Gronk, because you can't just guard him with certain players. You can't just put a cornerback on him. It's not fair. It's not a good matchup. You have to have a safety come down and really be able to hang with him physically. And that's going to allow a guy like Chris Godwin to see a lot of one-on-one coverages on the outside, or even if you line him up in the slot with a cornerback, and he wins those one-on-one matchups more times than not. If there's the one guy that I think is going to benefit from all the other players on this team and from Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, it's going to be Chris Godwin. I think he is the X factor on this team.
So you would take Chris Godwin over Mike Evans, because we're kind of having this debate last night between all the web heads here. They text in, and some people were saying, well, I'd take Chris Godwin right now. I'm like, Mike Evans, he's doing something that only Randy Moss has done, 6 seasons of 1,000-yard receiving. Do you feel like Evans' numbers will drop because Brady is so good with throwing into the slot, and that's where Godwin excels?
Well, what are we talking about? A drop off here? Are we talking a drop from all pro status to just Pro Bowl status? Because that's the level that you're going to get from Mike Evans. If he doesn't catch 1,300, he'll catch 1,000. Okay, he doesn't have 16 touchdowns, he'll have 11. Is that really? I'm not going to see a drastic drop off from Mike Evans this year just because of the offense, but I do expect guys that do line up in the slot like Godwin to benefit from Brady, who is a guy who likes to get the ball out of his hands quickly, and he does hit those intermediate routes rather than throwing the ball down the field, but he still has the arm, he still has the ability to get the ball down the field, and in the red zone, that's where Mike Evans will excel.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think Mike Evans, the sky's the limit for both of those receivers. With all that being said, is this the greatest weapons that Tom Brady has ever had in his career, including that undefeated year? Well, besides the Giants beating him in the Super Bowl, of course.
Well, that's a tough comparison because, him and Randy Moss set the record that year. So you're looking at just an absolute dynamic offense, just an unstoppable force that entire Patriots team was top to bottom. But in terms of what he has had recently with the Patriots, this roster does not compare. This offensive unit is much better than the ones that he's had the past several years with the Patriots. And that includes units that have gone to the Super Bowl. I think the team that went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Eagles a couple of years ago did not have the type of offense that this Bucs team has now. I mean, look at what Jameis Winston did last year. Everyone wants to talk about the interceptions. Yes, I get it, okay? The guy needed LASIK. He probably thought he was throwing to his own teammates, but he was throwing to the other team. It happens. But you still look at the numbers that he put up, the yards that he put up, the touchdowns that he put up. This offense is explosive. And as long as Tom Brady is going to protect the football, which he does, make smart decisions, which he does, he's going to put up fantastic numbers.
And we're on with Scott Seidenberg here of the Landry Football Network on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. The biggest question, Scott, on this team is at the offensive line. Of course, Donovan Smith with some of his comments. First and foremost, do you think Bucs fans should be concerned that Smith could opt out? And even if he doesn't opt out, in your opinion, is this the biggest question on the Bucs in 2020?
I think there's a lot of questions with this year, and you almost have to take this year and separate it from any other season, right? Because of everything that's going on with COVID and how these players are going to deal with it and how the teams are going to deal with it in terms of practice time. And it's just, we're seeing it all over the NFL, right? Cam Newton, it took so long for him to sign. I don't think it was because there were all these teams that weren't really interested. I think there was a lot of teams that maybe just couldn't get him into the building. Just couldn't get him in to see their doctors. And with the medical concerns, they just couldn't get him in. And the Patriots were the team that finally got him in and decided to give him a deal. I think when you look at the Bucs and you look at their offensive line, you look at any question mark that they have on this team, a lot will be determined as we get closer to the season, because this is an unusual situation. You're not going to have the typical OTAs and the start of training camp like we're accustomed to. You're not going to have the typical prototypical preseason like we're accustomed to. So normally things that would get kind of decided sooner as we head to the offseason programs, as we head into training camp, as we head into that first week of the preseason, they're not going to be determined until we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season. If you're asking me for the biggest question mark, I still look at them defensively, and I want to know just how they're going to handle the defensive secondary. And it has nothing to do, and I'm not trying to knock their defensive secondary, but just look at the division that they're good, that they're playing in. Look at the opponents that they're going to have to deal with. You know that the Bucs can score. You know that the Bucs, they're pretty good front seven wise, but in terms of the secondary, how are you going to defend against some of these elite wide receivers that you're going to be going up against, these elite quarterbacks that you're going to be going up against? That's going to be the biggest question mark for this team.
Yeah, it is. And look, they have no names in that secondary. A bunch of young kids that played well last year, the second half of the year. The first part, Vernon Hargreaves was in there, and it really took away from that playing time. But it comes back to what? It's all predicated on the pass pressure. You get JPP back for a full year. You're going to have Shaq Barrett coming off the 19.5 sacks. With his situation, a lot of people say it could be a flash in the pan. When you see Shaq Barrett on film or when you watch him play, do you feel like he's a flash in the pan, or the Denver Broncos basically missed out on somebody who was just bubbling at that point to have all that potential?
Sometimes people just need to change the scenery. Sometimes it clicks in other spots, different situations, the environment, the players around you, the system. A lot of things go into play. I don't look at this guy and think that he's a fluke. I look at him and think that he's a player. And I think that he's going to build off of what happened last season. I think he's going to build with the players that are around him. And I think this entire team is just going to get a boost by the attention that they're getting, right? Mm-hmm. When Tom Brady comes to this team, it brings more focus. It brings more media attention. It brings more fan attention. There'll be, we'll see what happens with the fans being allowed into the stadium or not, but there's going to be more people that are interested in tickets. Jersey sales are increasing. More people are going to watch them on TV. And that's going to give every other player on this roster a little boost, right? Because they're going to want to show up. They're going to want to perform when the bright lights are on them. They're going to want to step up and get their name is being talked about in the highlight packages rather than Tom Brady. So as long as, everybody stays within themselves, I don't see any point why this season won't be a step backward. It'll be a step forwards.
How many wins? Because I put everybody on the spot with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How many wins do you see here with this team?
I think 9 is the high watermark.
Wow.
I do. But I do think they'll be in contention for a playoff spot. And I think that that's just the way that the NFL is going to be this year. Not, there'll be teams that will get in. It's so tough. The NFL really is so tough. But I would say 9-7 is the mark that I would give them. I'm not going to jump up and say this is an 11-5 football team right now. And I'm not going to say that they're going to be worse than 9-7. I don't think they're a 7-win football team. I don't even think they're an 8-win football team. I'm just not ready to jump ahead and say this is going to be an 11-win team. So I'll say 9-7 is probably the mark for me. 10-6 would not surprise me at all. Anything above that, and I'd be like, okay, all right, hey, hey, all right, let's see what happens now. Maybe Brady does get this ship.
Well, I tell you right now, there's a lot of fans out there, and even Coach Arians thought that this team was better than a 7-win team with field goal misses, of course, by the field goal kicker, which is a question mark, and then, of course, Jameis Winston. You mentioned him, and he's definitely a lightning rod of controversy here in the Tampa Bay area. What do you think about Winston? Do you think that he'll eventually start in the NFL? Will he start for the Saints, or do you think it's another team?
It's probably going to be another team, but he is a talented enough quarterback to start. He just has to limit the mistakes. We've seen the ability to put up numbers. We've seen the ability to drive a team down the field and to score. We've seen the ability to rally a team, right? To have his teammates support him and pump him and pump him up. I don't think that this is a guy that we've seen the last of. I think he does have enough arm talent to get the job done in the NFL. A serviceable backup is somebody that you are not afraid to put into the game when you need to. Obviously, you never want to put your backup quarterback in the game, but if you had to, you're okay with it. Jameis is that guy and can be that guy for every team in the NFL. And if you have to start him, you will start him, and you'll feel completely comfortable starting him.
Yeah, Chris Landy already kind of talked about him holding the ball a little bit too much, too long, and that's why the offensive line wasn't that good, and also turning over the ball, and that's why he didn't necessarily get the biggest steal that he was looking for. Going around the NFL, the guy that got one of the biggest steals ever, Patrick Mahomes, and then they get Chris Jones done today. So are the Kansas City Chiefs basically in the driver's seat now? They were talking about dynasty. In your opinion, Scott, can they be a dynasty team here in the next couple of years?
Yeah, 100%. And if you look back to even the year before last year, they were a championship caliber team. I do think that this is a team that's going to be in contention every single year for the top couple of seeds in the AFC. You look at that division and you look at the teams in that division and where they're going. The Chargers are hitting the reset button, right? The Broncos are the Broncos. It just looks like it's going to be the Chiefs division for the next couple of years, much like the Patriots had a control over the AFC East. I think the Chiefs will have the control there of the West, and I see them being a Super Bowl contender every single year as long as Mahomes is healthy.
Yeah, I mean,
and the thing is also that people want to talk about when you pay a guy like Mahomes, right? You're going to lose out on other players. It happens. It's the best opportunity for you to compete as a football team is when you have that quarterback on a rookie deal, right? There's a reason why the Seahawks went to back-to-back Super Bowls is because, they had Russell Wilson on a rookie deal and they were able to keep the Legion of Boom. The minute they signed Russell Wilson, they start losing players. So the question is, will the Chiefs start to lose players? And I look at the solution to that is you have to draft well. You have to have players that are going to replace other guys. What did they do last year? Whether it was because he had off the field question marks or not, they drafted Tyreek Hill's replacement in McCall Hardman.
Yeah.
And if it comes to a situation where they can't afford to keep Tyreek Hill because he's going to command top dollar as one of the top wide receivers in the NFL, they're going to be okay losing him because they've already drafted the replacement in McCall Hardman. If they can continue to draft well, there's no reason to think this team isn't a dynasty moving forward.
Now, speaking of not a dynasty, that would be the Cleveland Browns. They get Myles Garrett done today. I mean, was this a wise decision? 10 sacks in 10 games, but of course, he had that cloud over him last year with the decking of Mason Rudolph. Is this a smart decision, just a one case, or could this be a problem for the Browns? Because I think there's a lot of Browns fans out there that want to see this team compete. It seems like they have the talent, high expectations, and they really floundered last year.
Yeah, and that's going to be with the Cleveland Browns because they have a lot of talent and a lot of strong personalities, let's say. I do think that Odell Beckham Jr. is kind of trying to take a step back this year and not be so boisterous. Myles Garrett was a no-brainer. You don't let a player like that walk. He is an elite pass rusher, and I know the incident that happened last year, I think that was just a flukish thing. He served his time, and he'll be back this year and leading that Browns defense. I look at that team, and it's much like every team. It falls on the shoulders of the quarterback. Baker Mayfield has too much talent to not run an effective offense. And if they can't compete with other teams, it's going to be because of their quarterback, not because of the lack of weapons that are around him.
Yeah, I mean, you hear about Beckham today. He was talking about on his show how he almost decided to retire in 2017. And then there's a report from The Athletic where there's an anonymous scout and there's an anonymous GM saying basically he's quit on the Browns and the Giants. When you watch him, do you feel like first and foremost he has the mental stability to be a wide receiver in this league? Because it seems like when he deals with adverse situations, he hasn't really worked out that well. And then on top of it, the injury situation, can he be committed? Can he really turn it around much like he did in his earlier years with the Giants? Can he be that force that the Browns expect him to be?
He can be because he's that talented. He had to get out of New York, though, because you mentioned his mental capacity to handle certain things. And in the New York market with the New York media, it was never going to work out. It was always going to be a disaster. He's a guy that commands a lot of attention, not just on the field, but off the field as well. And when he doesn't get that attention, or whether it's negative attention, he does not react well. And so getting out of New York was the best thing for him. Going to Cleveland, where he could be with his buddy Jarvis Landry, was supposed to be something that was great for him. But again, the production was not there. And I think largely in part due to the quarterback. And whether or not he's going to be unhappy there or move on from there or asked to move on from there is yet to be seen. I think this year will tell a lot. If he has an unproductive year, or the Browns as a whole have an unproductive year, you're not going to have a happy Odell Beckham Jr., and then you're not going to have Odell Beckham Jr. in a Browns uniform much longer.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a big time question mark. You already have that division with Pittsburgh, and then kind of you're underrated. And of course, everybody expects Baltimore to be the team to beat. Lamar Jackson even talked about it today. He wants to get where Mahomes is, and the only way he can do that is with the Super Bowl. Do you feel like, first and foremost, Baltimore can make it to the Super Bowl? Because we talked about the Chiefs already, but do they have enough to make it to the Super Bowl? And can Lamar Jackson earn that big time contract, much like Mahomes did?
He will, because it's a quarterback league. In the NFL, you have to pay for it. It's supply and demand, right? So it's always not who you are, it's when you are. The next quarterback up is always going to get the highest deal. It's just the bottom line. It doesn't matter who you are. But in terms of the Baltimore Ravens, this is a very important year for them. And I wonder how the preparation is going to be affected by the restrictions that we're dealing with right now with the NFL, because I want to see how teams have kind of adjusted to defend against them. And we've seen it time and time again in the NFL. The Wildcat came in, took the league by storm, and then teams adjusted to it, right? The read option came in, took the league by storm, then teams adjusted to it. Now, what Greg Roman's been doing in Baltimore is a variation of the read option offense that he had with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco that took the league by storm, but then ultimately was figured out and put to bed. Will the same thing happen to this Ravens offense? Will the rest of the league catch up to what they're doing offensively and force Lamar to throw the ball to beat them and put them into bad situations where they're not able to do the things that they're comfortable doing offensively? Now, is Lamar that much better of a talent than the other guys that were running these types of offenses? Absolutely. He's shown that. And he is a special dynamic player. But I'm very curious to see how the rest of the NFL adjusts in year 2 of this offense.
Speaking of the rest of the NFL, Scott, do you think that they are going to sign Kaepernick? Does Kaepernick make a squad here? Does the team out there give him an opportunity, or is it just wordplay?
Nope. He doesn't want to play football. The minute he plays football is the minute he takes away from everything he's doing and the great work that he's doing, I have to say, in terms of promoting social injustice and pushing his causes. He does not want to play football anymore. He wants to use his platform to kind of push those causes and promote those causes. But being a football player is not his top priority right now. I don't get why everyone is pushing for him to be a football player, because he hasn't been in several years, and he is completely fine with that. Sans one Nike commercial / workout video. We haven't seen him doing anything football related. We've never heard him being interviewed. He hasn't spoken to anybody on a national platform, even though he has an open invitation to do so in terms of football related stuff. I just don't think that any team out there wants to bring him in when he's only going to be a backup quarterback and cause much more of a distraction. And I'm not saying that he's a distraction because of anything that he's promoting. This is not about that. It's just a fact that he is a celebrity now. And much like Tim Tebow was a celebrity who had a private jet and a press conference to be introduced for the New York Jets when he was a third-string quarterback, the same thing is going to happen with Colin Kaepernick. And no NFL team wants to deal with that. They want to focus on getting their team ready to play football games, especially in a year that has so much uncertainty like this year, where the practice time is limited, the offseason time is limited, and it's just going to be a scramble to get your team ready with a lack of a preseason for the regular season.
All right, you're a gambling man here. So percentage that the NFL has a season, percentage that the NBA has a season, because I know you're an NBA guy. They're down there in the bubble in Orlando, already had 2 COVID cases. Percentage that there is an NBA season, percentage that there is an NFL season.
The NBA season is going to happen. I just got finished watching the TBT, the basketball tournament. And if they pulled that off with all of those teams in their bubble and all of those players, why can't the NBA with even more resources? So I understand that positive tests are going to be promoted and they're going to be published and people are going to talk about them, but there's more than enough players to play. You might not have some of the players that you are expecting to see play because of positive tests. But that doesn't mean that other players on the bench won't play. So the NBA will 100% finish in their bubble, and much like the TBT was successful doing their bubble. And congratulations to the Marquette, I think, alumni team, the Golden Eagles, for winning their $1 million. But I think the NFL 100% also will have a season. Will that season look like what we expect it to look like? I don't know. Will there be a delayed start to the season? It is possible. But any form of a season, whether it's the 16 games, 18 games, 14, 12, 10, we will have NFL football 100%. I can't tell you about fans in the stands. I can't tell you about whether it's going to start on time. I hope it will. And we know that the preseason has already been cut. It might be completely cut. I still think there are changes that will happen, but we will 100% have football at some point.
All right, good stuff. Scott Seidenberg, if I could say your name here, nationally syndicated radio, ESPN Radio, NBC Sports Radio, and of course a part of the Landry Football Network. Go ahead and promote yourself here for the Webheads. Thank you very much for your time, but go ahead and promote yourself, please.
Yeah, you can follow me all across social media at Scott's On Air right there. That's my Twitter handle, and you can find me there. I promote all of my appearances across radio, TV, and the internet, and the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Scott's On Air. Doing a lot of gambling content, especially once Major League Baseball starts. We'll have the MLB Play of the Day, which is one of my favorite things to do. So lots of content coming, and just very excited to have sports coming back.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot for your time here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Scott Seidenberg here, nationally syndicated host of ESPN Radio, NBC Sports Network, and of course a part of the Landry Football Network. Thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution. All right.
Anytime.
All right. There you go. Good stuff there. That was great. I mean, he basically told you there's going to be an NFL season. Now, is it going to start on time? I'm not sure because of some of the reports today. And again, welcome to the Sports Web, the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook, of course, live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and of course, the Twitch channel, Chris Landry Football Network. Philadelphia has banned all parades, all social gatherings, but they've excluded Eagles games. So that tells me that basically there could be no fans at this point. You just don't know. Of course, Baltimore came out a week ago, 14,000, Jacksonville, and now even the New England Patriots at 20% capacity. Let's go out to the Webheads, and then we'll get Joshua Cole Allen on, one of our newest writers here on Bucs Report. We'll read these comments, and here we go. Has Johnny abandoned YouTube? I don't think he has. But we will get him on. By the way, happy birthday, Johnny Dean. It's Johnny Dean's birthday, so I can see why he's missing maybe tonight. Johnny is on a mini vacation. What's going on, Christopher? What's going on, Best Virtual Edits Video? Johnny has vanished. What's up, everyone here? I heard he was on Nick Citro's AMA earlier. All right, there you go. Chris Wortham, yo, Best Virtual Edits Video. Did Shaq sign his tender? He absolutely did sign his tender, but remember, he is filing a grievance with the NFL because he wants to be paid as a defensive end. And the reason why? Because of the contract that was given to Myles Garrett today. Check this out if I can find it here in my notes. Unbelievable numbers by Myles Garrett. Just ridiculous here. Worth $125 million. The overall contract, 6 years, $144 million, and $60 million just to sign his name, guaranteed. That's the reason why Shaq Barrett wants to be paid like a defensive end. And of course, that contract for the Cleveland Browns, that would be Garrett, surpasses Khalil Mack. So there you go. That's the reason why. He doesn't want to be paid like an outside linebacker. He wants to be paid like a defensive end, and that's what he's working on. Brady will have 24 touchdowns, 4,100 yards, and 14 interceptions. I believe Shaq did sign. He did. If not, he will in the AM. Shaq has until 4 p.m. tomorrow to sign the tender. Again, we had that news on Friday. He did sign the tender, so that is official. According to Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter, Evans won't get 1,000 yards next season, but I can see him having double-digit touchdowns at this point, and we'll see if he does or not. We'll see if he has the double-digit touchdowns. That's what Scott said. He feels like he's going to be a red zone threat, and why wouldn't he be with his height and his size and the physicality? And if you double on a Gronk and you double on a Godwin, definitely would leave an Evans open, definitely would leave a Cameron Brate open, and an O.J. Howard. So Definitely double digits. I think Evans will have 1,000 yards. Christopher Cole, Matt Gay almost cost us the Carolina game when VH3 stopped Christian McCaffrey. Agree. I think it will be close, but with all the weapons and one-on-one matchups, he's going to torch defenses. True. All right, let's go back out to the webheads here. Dylan says Myles Garrett screwed the Bucs. Myles Garrett all the money after the helmet fiasco, and if Joe Mixon is in the league, then Myles Garrett should be. Also, AB should be in there too. AB needs to get his stuff together off the field. He does. I have doubts about Mr. Antonio Brown, and I get it. Highly talented receiver with the Steelers, worked his way out to the Raiders, gave up on them, went to the Patriots, and had off-the-field garbage that cost these other teams draft picks. So I don't have faith in Antonio Brown. And I get it. Everybody is blinded by the talent. But at the end of the day, it's about more than just talent. You have to also you have to have some accountability. And if you don't have the accountability, then there's not going to be teams out there that's going to sign you. That's why teams have hesitated in making a signing for Antonio Brown. No, Shaq didn't sign. He was on the NFL Network today. Not the report I heard. He let the Bucs know that he was going to sign, and so Joe Mixon can hit girls, but AB can't be in. I didn't like Joe Mixon coming into the league at all. I had my doubts, but Joe Mixon has been a model citizen for the Cincinnati Bengals. Apples to oranges. Apples to oranges. Multiple incidents for Antonio Brown. Joe Mixon had one in college. It wasn't right. It's never right. You know how I feel about off-the-field stuff, especially domestic abuse. It cannot be tolerated in the NFL. Come on, Peter. I don't have faith in the Bengals owners. Well, I don't either. But still, Joe Mixon has been a model citizen. He hasn't gotten into trouble ever since he got into the league. If Mason Rudolph got injured, he would have been done for good. He got lucky. And how much does Myles Garrett contract affect Shaq Barrett's contract with the Bucs? Will he want $25 million or more than that? I mean, it's a market. It's a game of market, and we know how that is. Let's go out to Joshua Cole Allen. It's a great question. Welcome. And, of course, you've got your show tomorrow, the Audible, debuting here at 8 o'clock here live on Bucs Report. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm doing great, Peter. How you doing?
Doing great. And that's been the question here with Myles Garrett in that contract today. How does that affect Shaq Barrett? If anything, once again, it kind of drives up the market, and it kind of drives the point of why Barrett would want to be paid like a defensive end instead of an outside linebacker, right?
Absolutely. I have to agree with that. Just to clarify, too, Shaq Barrett has not signed his tender. He stated today that he intended to sign it, but he has not actually put pen to paper. That was backed up by Rick Stroud and Andrew Siciliano. So most likely tomorrow will be the day that he signs his tender, if then it cannot come to some sort of agreement. As we spoke last night, I'm still holding out hope that they come to some sort of one-year agreement instead of having just the tender. That way they have time to talk about a contract, which brings us into Myles Garrett and the $25 million man per year, making him the highest paid defensive player in the league over Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack. You look at that contract, and for the player he is, you remember, I believe he was the number 1 overall pick just a few seasons ago from the Cleveland Browns. And you look at Shaq Barrett, who came in the league as an undrafted player, had 4, underwhelming seasons, came here and had that one big season, 19.5 sacks. Does he deserve the payday? I absolutely agree. Does he deserve a $25 million payday? I like to press the pause button on that. He deserves to be paid. He put up the numbers he put up, but let's see it for another year. If they can come to some sort of agreement at maybe around $18 million a year, I would definitely go ahead and sign that all day. But anything north of 20 right now for Shaq Barrett with a 1 year, especially with his numbers potentially going down next year, I just don't see it. Yes, he's the leading sack holder for last year, but we need to see if that will translate into another year until we start talking about $25 million a year.
Yeah, okay, so just a correction here, because I thought he signed it on Friday. He has not signed it, so he has until tomorrow, and if he doesn't sign it, then I don't know what to think. I mean, he's assured everybody. He's went on Sirius XM radio saying he's going to sign it. I kind of feel like they're still trying to get some type of deal done long term. Do you feel like the Bucs and Shaq can come to some type of agreement before the deadline tomorrow?
On a 1 year contract, yes. on a long-term contract, not after Myles Garrett's contract came out today. He's going to be, I don't think he's going to be looking for $25 million a year. I think he knows, about last year was his first big year actually getting, enough playing time and he spoke about it earlier in the offseason about being able to develop moves and try moves and fail at them instead of just coming in as a sub rusher behind a Von Miller and the DeMarcus Ware, who he was playing behind in Denver, being able to come onto his own and learn and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes and develop new moves and develop new situations and learn how to attack the game as a full-time starter. And he's going to just progress this year, I believe, maybe not have the same sack numbers, but be a more destructive player. But I just don't know if he's anywhere near $25 million a year based off 1 year. Hopefully they come to that agreement in between the franchise for defensive ends and linebackers. And, they get that under wraps for a 1 year contract instead of the tender. As we said, that gives them wiggle room to sort of have negotiations throughout the year to get a long-term done instead of being locked into that tender for the next year, then having to re-franchise tag him with the raise of the second-year franchise tag holding above their head. And, as we just saw, Myles Garrett kind of reset the market. So that franchise number is going to go up as well.
Yeah, big time. It's going to go up. We kind of talked about Jason Peters. Now he's off the board being a Bucs candidate because there is some question about Donovan Smith and if he's going to opt out or not. But he signed a 1 year deal worth $3 million. He has the opportunity to make $6 million. In fact, he's going to replace Brandon Brooks, who went out with an ACL at right guard.
Yeah.
So Bucs missed out on the opportunity. Again, if there was some plan in place, and I always go back to what Al Keck said before, if Donovan Smith let the Bucs know that he was going to opt out and they didn't have a plan B, shame on them. But I kind of feel like, once again, this could be just negotiating and just a player that's very concerned. So your thoughts on Jason Peters back with the Eagles for 1 year, $3 million? Pretty good deal because Peters, even though with the injury history, still playing at a high level.
Yeah, I mean, he plays at a high level and he's playing at a guard level, guard position, which isn't as taxing as a left tackle going up against the top pass rushers. You look in that division that they have a Montez Sweat, Chase Young. They have a couple of good guys on the Cowboys and DeMarcus Lawrence. I'm not really sure who the Giants have on that. Maybe Sheldon Richardson, I believe, plays for them. I'm not positive on that team because they haven't done well. But you look at the contract he got, that's a good deal for him. He can step in. He doesn't have to go against those guys. And going back to Donovan Smith, I'm almost, my gut says that he's going to play. I don't think he's going to opt out. I think he was frustrated at the time. And maybe that frustration came from a guy like Devin White or a guy like Ryan Jensen doing this offensive line, summit that he went to. Maybe Donovan Smith was supposed to go there, but because of, the health reasons that he stated in his message that he didn't attend that. So maybe it was just more of a frustration at the time. You saw the backlash you got from, your average Joe fans. I think he'll report. And you're right. If the Buccaneers did have an inkling that he wouldn't be there, you would think they would have had a plan B in place. I don't necessarily know if it would have been Jason Peters, but good for him on getting that contract and staying in a system that he knows with players that he knows. And it's just going to make that Eagles line all that better because they're not bringing an outsider. They're bringing in a guy that knows the nuances and knows, the technique and knows they can trust that brother on the line.
Absolutely. We're on with one of our newest writers here on Bucs Report, Mr. Joshua Cole Allen, on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. A lot of people saying, well, he's never an option. I think everybody's an option, especially if you lose your left tackle there, smart asses. Another thing that I saw today is some high prospects could actually basically opt out from college football because there's some big-time question marks if there's going to be any college football this year. And, Pro Football Talk was kind of talking about this. It would kind of start with Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields. And then after that, there would be a free-for-all with some of these high prospects. Could you see that happening where basically once they know college football is done or it's an unsafe environment where high prospects basically decide to get agents and call it a day for college football in 2020?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if they have good tape from last year. They might just sit out the season. I believe there was another player who did that before in the past that sat out after having good tape, and there was something going on. I forget who it was off the top of my head. But if that's the case, you have to look at that, and you have to. each individual has to make their own choice. Now, the NFL draft has stated that they're not going to push back the draft. So if you see some conferences like the Ivy League has canceled their fall ball and postponed it and possibly doing spring ball, another report came out that some conferences are asking boosters, would they rather not have fans in the stands and not be able to attend the games or push it into spring ball? So if you go to spring ball, you have to think that, you know, the NCAA is hoping and praying for that late fall, early winter vaccination to come out so that they can start immediately in January or, you know, mid-February to have their season done before the NFL draft kicks off. And these players have to be thinking that too, or else, you know, you could see a lot of players jump ship midway through the season if it's not wrapped up by the end of April. I believe the draft this year is the last day of April 30th to May 3rd or May 2nd or something like that. So if those seasons aren't wrapped up and these players, you know, want to go into the NFL, they're not going to risk their body and risk their health finishing a college season. They're going to drop out of the college season, enter the draft, and that's going to leave some programs, you know, with their hands up in the air like, well, what are we going to do? So it's a very fluid situation, as we know, Peter. Everything's changing by the day. We don't know. Teams are now scheduled to play only conference games. You have a team like Notre Dame who doesn't have a conference. I guess they're going to be playing in the ACC. It's a fluid situation. We'll see. National Football League is a fluid situation, and there's been talk that if college does not go, that they'll be playing some games on Saturday. So you'll have Monday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday night, you know, games all throughout the week, pretty much besides Tuesday and Wednesday, Friday. It's up in the air right now. Those players would be doing the smart thing with the uncertainty if they sat out, if they had good tape like a Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields. And you're absolutely right. More players will do it. It just depends on the tape and what they did in college the prior season.
Yeah, and I tell you right now, I definitely think the NFL will take advantage of those Saturday afternoon games, because if there is no college football, that's the opportunity where you can put some games on there. We're on with Joshua Cole Allen here, newest writer on Bucs Report on the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's go around the NFL. A warrant has been issued, and it cites evidence including video footage and direct messages that show witness Dominic Johnson oversaw payoffs of 4 alleged victims. Of course, this stems from the altercation on May 16th, where it was Quentin Dunbar and DeAndre Baker, who, by the way, Dunbar plays for the Seahawks, and I believe plays for the Seahawks. I think he used to play for the Redskins. And you have DeAndre Baker, who plays for the Giants. So now all this stuff coming out, it certainly looks like it happened after the witnesses recanted. And even that, Florida is actually doing a bar investigation on Michael Greco, the attorney or the counsel for Quentin Dunbar. And they actually decided to go their separate ways on Monday. And now we know why. What do you make of this situation? I mean, it's completely ridiculous with both of these NFL football players having armed assault, aggravated battery, armed robbery. It's ridiculous at this point. These guys are millionaires, and you think that with the situation they wouldn't be doing this type of thing, and now you find out there's bribery involved, there's extortion possibly, because the other attorney is saying the victims have tried to extort them, which is interesting in itself, because they've kind of feel like, well, seeing as the victims are trying to extort them now, they're going to get off. The NFL, Roger Goodell is going to throw the book at both of these guys, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at these players, and I don't understand what goes through their minds when they do things like this. Not just players, owners, CEOs, anyone in the front office, getting into cars when they've had too much to drink, with DUIs and everything like that. It's not 1994 where information doesn't come out, in a newspaper or, on dial-up. You've got mail. It's 2020. Literally, it takes 2 seconds for some information to come out, to go from your phone to a Twitter feed to being shared by TMZ to being everywhere. And these players are still continuing to make these same mistakes. It just doesn't make sense. It'll never make sense to me, especially the DUIs, especially the owners and GM people like Steve Keim and people like that who get these DUIs when the NFL has a program which is no questions asked, no judgment asked. If you call and say you've had too much to drink, they will get you an Uber or some sort of ride share program to bring you home to your house. No questions asked, no judgment, no investigations, no anything. And yet they still get behind the car and drive home and get pulled over for DUIs. Now the assault and the battery and, Greg Hardy and Ray Rice and Kareem Hunt and all these, like, cameras are everywhere. And
at gunpoint, they're at gunpoint taking cash. Baker 4 counts. He pleaded not guilty to armed robbery and aggravated assault. And then Mr. Dunbar had a firearm at the time, and they paid $55,000 in total to the 4 victims. Basically, like you said, social media is everywhere. You would think that these knuckleheads would understand that, but they got a conversation from Baker, and Baker says, "Yo, I'm in the city now getting cash. How much to bring?" And they're looking all this up. They have all these text messages. I feel like not only is the NFL going to throw the book at them and they're never going to play it down in football, but they're going to prison for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, it's everyone wants their 15 seconds of fame nowadays, and that's all it is. It's not 15 minutes. It's 15 seconds. You post those messages up on Twitter or on whatever, give them to TMZ. You might get a little cash for them on the side, and your name gets involved with it. And now you're kind of famous for 15 seconds until the next idiot makes another mistake or does something else. It's mind-boggling that they would actually transmit these messages on something. I mean, use Snapchat or Instagram Messenger where, this is a disappearing. Use something other than a text message.
Right.
What's wrong with you guys? I mean, well, what's wrong with them is they did it in the first place. That's what's wrong.
I mean, yeah, and it happened May 13th, not May 16th, but all this stuff kind of started to circulate. And this is all from the New York Daily News, according to Pat Leonard. It's just a crazy situation. And you wouldn't think with everything that's going on with COVID, where it happened in Miramar, that certainly seems like that's an opportunity where you could get COVID-19, and yet these guys are not even thinking about that. They're trying to hold up somebody. What do you say? What do you think about Odell Beckham Jr. and his comments today on his YouTube channel? He says, "I said this in college. I said, I fear the day that they make the game a business and not what I love. And when I seen that for the time after breaking my ankle, like I thought about not playing no more. Like, this is not really for me because they ruined the game of football for me just a little bit. Here's a player that came on strong his rookie year, made the catch, highly productive, but you look at his production the last couple of years, not only the injury situation in 2017, his catches have gone down, his big plays have gone down. Do you feel like Odell Beckham he will have a breakout year this year for the Browns, or is he going to continue to suffer and basically not ever be able to do what he did the first couple years for the Giants?
Well, I mean, on the first point, the business has been, if you're an elite talent and an elite player since high school, when you're academically eligible or ineligible, and your teacher slips you an A, and then it carries on into college. When they're making money off your name, off your image, off everything that you stand for in college. The NFL just takes it to the next level because now you start seeing dollars and cents out of it. And to answer the other question, I see him having a good season. Wouldn't say it would be a breakout season. Last year, he had a nagging injury. The offensive line wasn't up to par as where it should be. They brought in Jack Conklin. They drafted Jedrick Wills. I think that offensive line is going to be better. Give Baker Mayfield some more time. Freddie Kitchens was an absolute joke as a coach. Should have never gotten that job in the first place. You bring in Stefanski. You bring him in. He has some different schemes and plays that he can draw up that will really bring out the best of Baker Mayfield. I see a bounce back season. You got to remember, last year the Cleveland Browns were everyone's darling team to go to the Super Bowl and make the playoffs. Just things didn't break the right way. I think with a healthy OBJ, a new coach that's kind of more quarterback offensive friendly, even though Baker was best buddies with Freddie Kitchens, I think he'll bring a different dynamic. You still got Jarvis Landry. You brought in Austin Hooper. For the time being, you got David Njoku. You drafted Harrison Barnes, another tight end in the 4th round. You brought back Kareem Hunt on the tender. You have Nick Chubb back there. That offensive line, like I said, has improved. He's got the weak pieces and the weapons around him, and I think his weapons kind of rival Tampa Bay's weapons on how dynamic and how many there are. It's just it's just Baker. It comes down to Baker, and I believe that's what your last guest just said. It comes down to Baker's progression, and he has too much talent to not be able to put it together. But we've seen it before with Browns quarterbacks. It seems like every time the Browns get a quarterback with talent, something goes wrong. They either ruin it, spoil it, the head coach can't figure it out, or they can't figure it out, or something happens. So if Baker has a good season, has his head on straight, isn't running for his life, the offensive line plays well, and Odell stays healthy, I see him getting back to those Giants numbers. A breakout season where he's the lead league in receptions, touchdowns, and yards. I don't see that, but I definitely see him having a better season. I'll draft him in fantasy this year.
Now there was an anonymous scout anonymous coach that actually said that he's watched Odell for the last couple of years and he feels like he's been giving up on plays. And there was an anonymous player, veteran guy, who says he doesn't feel like Odell has the mental capacity to handle the NFL. Are you concerned, if you're a Browns fan or the Browns organization, when you hear a player who's so young that is considered retirement? Could he consider retirement again? And do you feel like he has been giving up on some plays? I get it, Baker Mayfield's your quarterback. But the last couple of years, not injury wise, but has he been giving up on plays in your opinion?
Well, let me just say this. What's the difference between Larry Fitzgerald and Odell Beckham, not talent-wise? Well, one's a hard worker, goes to work, does his job, and says nothing. The other one's a diva. He's a diva. And let's look at the last couple divas that have been in the league. Yeah. You have Randy Moss, you have Terrell Owens, you have guys like that who is a me situation and, brings that diva wide receiver quality. And the guys I mentioned are great players. But that's kind of how I see Odell Beckham Jr. as a diva. A lot of times last year, you watched him literally give up on plays. And part of that was because Baker Mayfield couldn't get there. I had him on fantasy, so I was watching him all the time. I'm like, what's going on? Do I bench him? Do I play him? And you just watch some of the games, and he's just screaming for the ball, and Baker's running for his life or just doesn't see him. We're just not smart enough to get him the ball and let him make plays with it after he catches it. Because Odell Beckham is still a dynamic player. I mean, yes, he was banged up last year. He has all the ability in the world. But, I mean, he needs a quarterback to get it to him. You saw Eli Manning when he came in as a rookie. Eli still kind of had a little bit of ability, and you saw him lose it, and you saw Odell Beckham's numbers kind of go down with it. And then now coming with a quarterback who's only in his, fourth year, still learning a third offensive coordinator, a third system. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Alex Smith, who came in as a #1 overall pick and had, 4 different coordinators, 3 different head coaches throughout his time being there. So if he can put it down and get it together, and obviously we're in a COVID world right now, so he hasn't had that time to really get with him during off OTAs and mini camps. It's going to be interesting to see. It all comes down to, again, Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham. If they could get on the same page and Baker can make the plays, then Odom's going to be happy as a pig in a blanket. He's not going to be giving up on plays. But if not, you'll see the same old Odell Beckham, frustrated, hands on his head on the sideline, head in his lap, and giving up on plays because he doesn't trust his quarterback to get him the ball.
Yeah, fighting with the kicking net, punching the wall, getting into fights with Josh Norman. We're on with the newest writer here on Bucs Report, Joshua Cole Allen. On the evolution of Sports Talk Television, it's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Go through these terms again. Myles Garrett, $25 million. The contract itself is worth $125, 6 years, $144. And then Chris Jones is the guy that gets $60 million guaranteed, and he got $85 million. It looks like total there. Are you surprised with Chris Jones? 33 sacks, 7 forced fumbles. I mean, he's really become one of their best defensive players for the Chiefs. Are you surprised the Chiefs got this done with all the talk of Jones kind of holding out like Le'Veon Bell?
I'm not. They wanted to get it done. That's why they, had the urgency to get Patrick Mahomes' contract done as well. And the funny thing is, with signing Patrick Mahomes to his $500 million contract and signing Chris Jones to his $85 million, $21.5 million a year or $21.25 million contract a year, they've actually created cap space. How do they do it? I have no idea. But they actually have more cap space than they did before when Jones was on the franchise tag. I mean, a lot of that is pushing money around here and there, signing bonuses at the start and pushing their cap hit lower for the year. But it's just crazy to think they would sign up arguably their 2 best players, on offense and defense, Because Chris Jones is just an animal. You've seen what he can do.
Yeah.
He is right on par with Aaron Donald as probably 1-2 best defensive tackles. And he's done it from the defensive tackle position. It's not like he's a DN like Myles Garrett. He's a defensive tackle. To see what he's become and what he is, it's very impressive. And I'm hoping that's with more snaps and another season in Todd Bowles' system, that's what we see Vita Vea kind of become, is one of those dominant defensive tackles in this league. But yeah, I mean, he deserves to get paid. I'm glad it happened. You always want to see players get paid and be put in good situations because it's good for the league. It might not be good for your chances with your team for a Super Bowl, but it's good for the league to have good players and have good players not hold out. And that's ultimately what we want to see as football fans. I mean, I know we're all fans of individual teams, but as football fans, we want to see football played at its best level. And I think that's why so many people have been frustrated about Colin Kaepernick not being in the league too.
Well, yeah, and then to listen to Scott Seidenberg, he said it best. Does he want to play in the league, and will there be anybody that will get after him and sign him because of the distraction? And I get it. He still may be talented. You have Jim Harbaugh coming out lately saying some team is going to be very lucky to have him. In your opinion, do you feel like Cap gets to a team, or does he not get signed?
In a regular season without COVID, I don't think so. With COVID, I think you're talking about way too many variables. I think you've heard Bruce Arians talk about maybe putting a quarterback in quarantine. We don't know what roster size is going to look like. Mm-hmm. We don't know if they'll have separate players put aside for rosters. We don't know anything like that that's going to happen. We're still waiting to see how many people will come to training camp in 13 days out. So we have no idea what's going on. And neither do the players. I was talking to some of the players that I've interviewed in the past, and they're still there. They plan on reporting, next week when they're supposed to report. Rookies and stuff come early, but they have no idea. They haven't heard from the Players Association. They're just going to come in. They're going to quarantine in their hotel, and then they're going to figure it out. So, I mean, I guess the NFL and the NFLP are going to sit together tomorrow and kind of try to hammer everything out because they need to, because we're talking less than 2 weeks. And we all know that the protocol for quarantine is 2 weeks. So if they're not down here yet, how are they quarantining themselves for 2 weeks and then reporting on the 28th? So it's all up in the air. But if there are separate rosters kept aside, maybe that's somewhere or expanded rosters, maybe that's somewhere and there's an injury or something. That's where you see Colin Kaepernick get signed because you don't know if 3 of your quarterbacks test positive and they have to sit out a week. Well, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to pick someone off the scrap heap, or are you going to try to see what Colin Kaepernick has left and bring him in? I take the Baltimore Ravens, for example. If their quarterback room gets hit and you got RG3 and Lamar Jackson both go down, well, who's a comparable player out there that can kind of simulate what their offense does? Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I just feel like you've got to base a system around him, and for him to learn a new system is going to be very difficult. You don't know what you're getting when he's been out in the league at least 3 to 4 years. And we're all with Joshua Cole Allen on the evolution of sports television, the sports web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Derrick Henry, it looks like he's not going to get a multi-year done. Do you think the Titans are doing the right thing by not getting that multi-year done? Because you look at Todd Gurley, always go back to that production, kind of gone down, the miles on those tires. Is it smart by the Titans to not sign him to a long-term deal, see if he can duplicate those numbers he did last year?
Absolutely. And Ryan Tannehill came out and said that, he thinks he deserves one. Of course he did, now that he's got his. I think it'd be a different story if he was the one franchise tag. Actually, I think he'd love it because, I mean, he came out of nowhere. But, you got to take that opportunity to look at him again. The amount of times they ran him, and you saw in the playoffs, you're putting miles on those tires and that tread, and you're going to wear him out. Do you want to give him a huge extension like the Rams gave Gurley, or like Le'Veon Bell just got, who hasn't lived up to it? I don't think you do. I think you kind of play it out maybe year to year. The franchise tag for running back is a lot less if you franchised him twice than it would be if you signed him to a big extension. So I see them going that route. Maybe they'll revisit it. Maybe he'll leave. Maybe he'll get traded. Who knows? Running backs are kind of one of those positions that are easily replaced. A lot of people are going by committee. There's only about 4 or 5 real workhorse backs in the league that I can think of, and everybody else kind of runs as a platoon. They tried to platoon him with Deion Lewis. You obviously saw that didn't work, so they had to rely on him a lot. But maybe they get something done next year, but this year I didn't think they had any intention of signing to a long-term deal.
All right, good stuff. Out of the list of these players here, Joshua Cole, Brandon Sheriff, Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott, Chargers Hunter Henry, Giants defensive lineman Leonard Williams, or Shaq Barrett for the Bucs. Who gets a big-time deal tomorrow, or none of those guys get a big-time deal because there is so much uncertainty with the cap going into 2021?
I would say neither. I look for maybe Joe Tooney for the Patriots, maybe get something done there.
Okay.
He's got a big cap hit. They just freed up some money with the grievances between Antonio Brown and he who must not be named. I'm not sure if any of them get done at all. I think we've come to the 9 o'clock hour, and if we were going to hear something about someone get done in a long-term deal, I think it would have already happened or been announced. The one thing I do look is maybe Shaq. We've talked about it earlier. Maybe he filed the grievance. Maybe, hopefully, they come to some agreement on a one-year deal that's not the franchise tag, that meets in the middle, or even if it is with a defensive end with Myles Garrett resetting the market right there. I would be happy to pay him $17.78 if it means that you can still have dialogue with him throughout the year. Going into next year and having to franchise tag him again scares the heck out of me. Even if he does put up the same numbers, I just don't like that option. I would rather have the wiggle room to talk to him, all season long and figure out a contract extension, then kind of see how he does. And if he's matching those numbers, let's say by end of October, beginning of November, you'd be like, all right, let's talk now and let's get something done.
All right, let's go out to the webheads here. How much time you got with me here?
I got a little bit longer, Peter.
All right, let's go ahead and go out to the webheads, read some comments from these guys. Let's see here. AB never harmed anyone. Oh, okay. All right. Do you agree with that? AB never harmed anyone. I know he was a Patriot for a cup of coffee, but to me, not only did he harm a locker room, and that would be the Raiders, putting faith in him and giving up draft picks, but on top of that, he's harmed people off the field, and I get it, they're allegations, but there's too many situations there that don't make sense. He never harmed anyone. You buy that?
Allegations are allegations until they're proven true. So if you would take out those allegations of, sexual harassment and potential rape, I do think that, yes, while being a clown in his antics with the delivery driver, with the apartment, with, obviously the franchises that he's been a part with and caused the going live on Facebook while Mike Tomlin's talking, obviously the whole Raiders scenario shenanigans. I do think those are, aren't professional by any means. But if these allegations weren't true, I do think he deserves to have another shot in the league. You see what we've done with Michael Vick. We've seen, Ray Rice for a cup of tea had another shot. Kareem Hunt, Greg Hardy. So, I mean, if you rape someone, no, absolutely not. He should be out of the league. But until those allegations are proven true, I'll reserve my right to kind of, judge that and, say that he does deserve a second chance. Will he get it? Who knows? I think that any team would make sure that he was going to see a mental health physician
right
before they decided to bring him on and make that part of, the contract stimulation.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's mentally well. If he's mentally well and the NFL approves of it and there's a team that has the confidence, and he has to go to a strong organization, and Baltimore is a strong organization with John Harbaugh there. I'm not sure if I would allow him in that locker room, but I understand why he would be motivated because you get to play the Steelers twice. And then the Seattle Seahawks with Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. So those are the only two places I can really see him going.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's more of a player's coach, though. And, I mean, that's fun if you have a guy who's committed to, working hard and doing all the right things. You've seen how it hasn't worked out with other players in the past. And I just don't know if Antonio Brown is that guy in this stage of his career that can be trusted to just do the right things and make the right decisions without being micromanaged. I think you nailed it on the head. Harbaugh is one of the only guys who could handle him. I thought Belichick could. I thought that it would have worked out if that allegation didn't come out, or maybe even if the allegation did come out, but if he had notified them and let them know, like, hey, this is coming out on Monday, but he didn't, obviously, and we saw what happened.
Absolutely. All right. And if you have any questions, or if you want to have any comments at all about the contracts that were signed today, how do you think it affects the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going forward in a Shaq Barrett because of Myles Garrett? How does it affect Chris Jones with Vita Vea? You mentioned him. I think he could be a surprising player. How does it affect it? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391 with all the rumors today with Philadelphia basically saying they're cutting off all public events, but they're excluding the Eagles. And your opinion here, Joshua, does that basically tell you that there's not going to be fans for the Eagles, or am I assuming too much?
I'm not sure there's going to be fans in the stands at all the first half of the season. Earlier on in the show, in the prior months, I really thought that they would let fans in the stands for that first game, kind of see what goes on, look at the numbers, and then make an adjustment for week 2. The closer we get, the more that I don't feel like it's going to happen. I know I'm pretty sure the Bucs will be announcing something tomorrow regarding their stadium policies and season tickets. I'm a season ticket holder member, and I spoke with them today. And there was an email that was supposed to come out today. Obviously, didn't. It's probably come out tomorrow. I'm assuming the same thing as Jacksonville, 25 to 20%, especially with the spike in cases here. Maybe the deaths haven't necessarily spiked up, but the spike in cases is still something to be worried about. Wear your mask, wash your hands, so we can have some football. Yeah,
and I'm surprised by that whole thought process. Well, the death hasn't gone up, so that's why we need to go out without masks. No, the people are still getting it. You don't know if they're dying from it because they're not getting tested enough, and you don't know the results of those tests. 24 to 48 hours. They're very slow with those tests. So now, you got to do everything you can, because I feel like if we do that, and that would be the fans in Florida, if they do that, then possibly you could see some fans. But I kind of think, with the Eagles today, with the Patriots, 20%, I don't think there's going to be any college football, but there may be some fans at different places. I'm just not sure if that's going to be fair to other NFL teams. I'm not sure if Goodell, the NFL Players Association, would sign off on a city being able to have fans more than others.
Exactly. And you look at California, just got locked down again. I think what we need to do is we need to stop using the word asymptomatic, because I think there's people, and I'm not knocking them, but don't understand what that means. So maybe we need to figure out another word for that, so people can, just tell them what it is. You can have COVID without testing positive for COVID, and you can spread COVID and still have it in your system and still spread it. I don't know if there's a way to shorten that or whatnot, but I think that people are like, oh, I don't have it, I'm fine, I haven't got any symptoms. Well, you could have it, and you could be spreading it, and that's what's going on right now. People aren't wearing masks and spreading it that way.
Absolutely. Another question for you guys: what should the Bucs do with Shaq Barrett? He has not signed his tender. I thought he did. I'm dumb. He has not signed it yet. He was on NFL Network today, so we'll try to get those comments tomorrow. We'll have Chris Landry most likely tomorrow at 9 o'clock here at LandryFootball.com, a part of the Landry Football Network.
And I'll touch on it right before you.
Absolutely. You have your new show tomorrow, The Audible. But my question to the fans out there: what should the Bucs do? Should they pay him as a defensive end, that extra $2 million more? Should they pay him as a linebacker? Should they come halfway? 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Anything you think about the signings today? What about college athletes basically opting out early to go to the NFL? What do you think about that? Let's go back out to the webheads here, read their comments, and try to get some calls on here. If not, we'll just end it for the night. So Shaq has to be consistent. One more year and he will get paid. What's up, Joshua Cole? Allen, best virtual edits video. Bad thing about it, if he gets injured, they may do Shaq the same way they did Quan. Quan and Shaq are totally different. Quan, to me, never had a breakout year. He never, I know you've watched Quan Alexander. To me, it's all hype. That's what I think Quan Alexander is. Too many missed tackles, some dumb stuff off the field his first year, which really cost the Bucs 4 games, with taking some type of supplement, which is what he said he got busted for. Who knows at that point? Maybe the Bucs do better with him because I believe that was probably one of his best years, his rookie year. Then after that, he misses a lot of tackles, misses a lot of plays, dances around, and he's excited, but he's not better than Devin White. And I think the Bucs did the right thing, because Quan really didn't make an impact last year for the 49ers. He wasn't the reason why the 49ers were good. Best virtual edits video. Go ahead.
No, I mean he was a good player, consistent player. He did make some miss some tackles, everything.
Tackle. That's what he considered.
Yeah, I mean he missed some tackles, but he wasn't a game changer. And if you re-sign Quan Alexander, you're not taking a guy like Devin White, who I think is one of the most athletic players on this team. It's going to be a cornerstone on this team to build around. You talk about the young secondary. You have a young linebacker in Devin White, and then you have a young stud defensive tackle in Vita Vea. I think you've got your three layers of your defense kind of locked down. And Quan was good for what he was, but I mean,
you're going to pay him $16 million?
I'm not going to pay him $16 million. No.
I mean, I bet right now John Lynch and the 49ers want to get out of that contract. I bet they do. Because he didn't play well in the Super Bowl. He missed a couple of tackles. Do you remember? I do. And I don't remember him playing a full season. Now, we'll see if he can come back this year and make an impact for the 49ers. But let me put this out there right now, Bucs fans. He was not the reason why the 49ers had success on their defense last year. It was that front four. It was a guy by the name of Nick Bosa and DeForest Buckner and Armstead. Yeah, it was the reason for them. It wasn't Quan Alexander making plays. And I
like Quan Alexander. I thought he was a good player. I thought he had a pretty good game to him. But I looked at the contract he got and I was like, whew, that's a lot.
To me, he's known for dancing with Gerald McCoy when the Bucs are down by 9 against the Atlanta Falcons. Just saying. All right, let's go back out to the webheads here. I agree. Want to see another year. Dylan says, Andrew Siciliano said Bucs and Shaq weren't close on a deal. Don't see it happening. If the Chiefs have money, the Bucs have money. They just want to see more consistency. That's fair. One thing about edge rushers, though, he should be good. He will get double teamed. They will. Well, here's the great thing about this. If he's still producing, the Bucs should pay him before he goes with guaranteed money. And they have all the leverage at this point, of course. So they're going to have to pay him more if he's that productive. But the advantage that he's going to have is, even though offensive coordinators are basically going to be able to defend him and know his tendencies, you have JPP on that other side, knock on wood, for a full year. I definitely think that's going to take the pressure off of Shaq. Shaq's going to go out there and do what Shaq does. You watch the film, he can do it all. I mean, he's really amazing. Just take a look and break it down, what he can do with his hands, how he moves. He's the perfect system. And with everybody saying, well, I think there may be a drop-off. Why? Why do you think there's a drop-off? Because there's offensive coordinators out there? There were offensive coordinators out there last year that couldn't stop him. You know why? Because, again, there's other edge rushers on this team. And I got to tell you something, Josh. I think they're going to rush more of Devin White this year because he's going to be more comfortable in the second year. And they even talked about drafting White in the first year out of LSU. The reason why they got him is because they wanted to use those pass rushing abilities. I think they could do that this year and make up for some of that depth on the linebacking squad.
Absolutely. And that's where I think the ball becomes in Shaq's court. I think the Bucs have the leverage until they don't. If Shaq comes out there and proves that he's capable of, even if he doesn't lead the league in sacks and gets 15, 16 double-digit sacks, like we've said, Vita Vea, Devin White, a guy like Antoine Winfield who can play all over the field, Jason Pierre-Paul, Sue Golston, they're all going to get sacks. They're all going to eat, especially with a full year of Jason Pierre-Paul if he stays healthy. He's going to see his numbers go down, or maybe they don't. Maybe everyone's numbers go up. Obviously, it's a wait and see. And if that's the case, then Shaq played the right card and waited to sign a deal, or taking the franchise tag, because he's going to get paid no matter what. I'm hoping that they can come to an agreement tomorrow on a one-year deal, not the franchise tag, so you have that flexibility. I mean, I can't stress that enough. If I'm the Buccaneers front office, I'm saying, all right, listen. Look at Matt Judon. This is what he did with Baltimore. Let's do this. Let's get, a deal done so we have that flexibility. We're not there right now. The uncertain times right now that we're going through. We don't want to commit financially that much, and it's not because of you as a player. It's just because of this time. We don't know how much revenue. We don't know about the salary cap, whether it's going to go up or not. We have to sign guys like Godwin. We have other players that, are going to be coming up on their deals soon. Let's just sign a one-year deal. We'll revisit once the season gets started, once we know more, and we'll go from there. I'm hoping that Jason Light is smart enough to do that, and I'm hoping the front office is going to get something like that done between now and I believe it's a 4 p.m. deadline that he has to sign that tender by. I'm hoping.
All right, good stuff there. Look at Tannehill, though, had one good year, got rewarded with a huge contract.
It's a quarterback.
Right. I mean, they sign players based on 1 year of success. You see it all the time, except with the Bucs, and sometimes it's a smart decision, sometimes it's not. You've been on the other end of it. Michael Bennett had, some fair years here, had a shoulder injury, and they let him go, and he was highly productive. And Shaq Barrett didn't get signed with the Cincinnati Bengals because he had a shoulder injury, and guess what? The Bucs hit the jackpot. So yes,
they just did that. They did a 1 year deal. It worked out. He brought him back on another 1 year deal.
I mean, it's not a bad thing. Jason Peters was never an option. It's the new front office, Chris. I don't blame them, though. The Browns had a great defense. Hi, my name is Bob. Prep. I'm here, boys. All right. Good stuff. Best virtual edits video. The Chiefs don't have a cap. AB never harmed anyone. We read that already. Come on now. Tampa Prep. I have to agree with Josh. He never harmed anyone besides a locker room and called his boss a cracker. But, whatever. The only play. I mean, it's okay to call your boss all kinds of names. It's okay to be like that. It's okay to ruin a locker room and let a team down. And yet fans wonder why guys don't perform the way they do, because you entitle them, you condition them, you give them that type of money, you give them second, third, fourth chances, and you never put your foot down. Antonio Brown doesn't need to be in this league right now. He needs to learn a lesson. The NFL needs to teach him a lesson. And if he did something off the field, or he's not mentally stable and doesn't have the mental capacity to play in the NFL, he needs to get his stuff in check before you sign him. I'm just amazed. Everybody's a victim these days in society, especially in sports, and you don't look at the big picture. You don't look at the fact that the Steelers got rid of him. Why? Because he was a nuisance to the locker.
Talent, Peter. That's why. Talent and money. If you can sell 100 Antonio Brown jerseys, and he can help you win. He didn't necessarily help the Patriots win that game against Miami. It was a rout because Miami was that bad. But, you look at the uptick in merchandise sales that they had. The Patriots get some of that. You look at the hype around the team because of the talent. Fantasy, the NFL has an underlying fantasy issue too. They'll never admit it, but they want to see dynamic playmakers with talent on the offensive side of the ball because it fuels the fantasy giant that they have become. It's a whole bunch of different things, and as long as he's got talent, they're going to look the other way to bring him in. I agree with you on.
And that's why they're not good teams. That's why he has to go to a good team, and then once he gets out of line, you let him go. But if you're a bad team and you continue to look the other way, and the Raiders tried multiple times to get him to play for them, and he quit.
On Hard Knocks. You saw it all on Hard Knocks last year.
He made some idiotic decisions off the field. He knew, right, the whole feet thing, the whole helmet thing, all this other stuff. And then he calls his boss. I couldn't call my boss anything. If my boss told me, both of my bosses told me to do something, you do it. You don't defy authority. I don't care how talented you are or how much money you're making. And that's what some society has to learn.
They had to be held back from each other. It wasn't just he called him a name. At that point, get out of there. You're obviously not going to fit here. I don't know.
The guy has he has absolutely no idea about reality, and he needs a reality check. And if you guys want to fight with me and debate me on this, call me on the phone line, 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Joshua Cole Allen. Plexico Burrows had, some problems, and he had to deal with the consequences. You talked about Michael Vick. Michael Vick actually went to prison, and I almost feel like Brown is going to have to go to prison. He's going to have to hit rock bottom until he realizes it. And all this crap that he keeps on coming out with, and Deion Sanders and everybody saying, well, we need to get him back in the league. No, you don't. Because the Pittsburgh Steelers have shown you could draft somebody in the third or fourth round. They can come in, be productive as AB, and you don't have to have the worry of him being a cancer to your locker room. I'm sorry. You don't have to have him. You don't have to have everybody. Stop with the Madden nonsense of going after everybody. We have to have this player, this. You don't have to have any player. Draft well, do the right thing, and if you feel like the guy fits your system, you plug him in. If he doesn't, get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, okay. I'm buying in. I'm not. I don't buy AB. I'll never will. Especially when he gave himself that nickname, Mr. Big Chest. I don't care. From what I know, he's well on his way back in the league. Well, congratulations. Let's see how long he lasts. Okay. When was the last time you heard of him? Well, I heard he was working out with Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks, and everybody was getting, I guess, having warm thoughts in their stomach or butterflies in their stomach. They wanted to sign. He still hasn't signed with them. So what's that mean? AB has surrounded himself around solid people trying to get help.
Josh Gordon.
Okay. All right. Expect higher COVID positive results from NFL players, football players in general if they play. Shaking my head.
Yeah.
NFL made $281 million in TV contracts in 2019 and $119 million in tickets and such. Tell you what, let's go out to the phone lines. I think somebody wants to talk about this AB situation or the contracts around the league. Let's go out to Rick from Atlanta. Rick, welcome to the Evolution.
No, Rick in Atlanta.
How you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. How you doing?
Doing great. All right, so I just want to take another look at AB. Not calling to argue with you.
No, that's fine.
Here's the thing: the guy played for how many years and wasn't a problem, and then all of a sudden the wheels just came off the wagon in a spectacular way.
Right.
For about a year, and what it sounds like is a guy who, quite honestly, it just sounds like, I have no information, it sounds like a guy who got off his meds. Since that point, you've not heard a thing from him. Okay, it seems like the guy's gotten himself back on track. It seems like he's getting it back together. Now, I'm not saying I want him on the Bucs.
Sure.
But I don't know that your characterization of him as just being this complete crazy cancer, that's not been the way he's been his whole career.
Well, to be fair here, Rick, now we find out that Mike Tomlin was keeping this locker room together. AB was giving him problems throughout the whole process. You can go ahead and do research on this. For years, that locker room was held together by Tomlin, which, by the way, Terry Bradshaw saying Mike Tomlin should be fired. Look, if a guy can keep the locker room together with an Antonio Brown and a Le'Veon Bell, with those kind of characters and still win games consistently, I think he's coach of the year. So it wasn't just a 1-year thing. And that's the reason why the Steelers got rid of him, because they had enough. They had enough of it.
Well, yeah, I think, you've got prima donnas at wide receiver. You've always had prima donnas at wide receiver.
I mean, is Mike, look, Rick, is Julio Jones a prima donna? Is Mike Evans a prima donna? Is Chris Godwin?
The Bucs receivers the Bucs receivers are outliers. Okay, you've got a lot of great receivers. Randy Moss. I mean, you want me to keep going down the line?
Oh, sure, you can. That's why when people ask me, Rick, who I would take if I had to throw the ball and needed a touchdown, I take Jerry Rice all day long over Randy Moss, because I'm not a guy
who became a prima donna at the end of his career.
Well, I mean, he still wanted to play. I think that's what it came down to. He still wanted the opportunity to play. He wasn't ruining locker rooms. He wasn't doing Facebook while his boss was doing a speech when he was told. He wasn't going into
Facebook didn't exist.
No, he did Facebook. He went Facebook Live. He was trying to promote himself, self-promotion.
No, I'm saying when Rice was there.
Right.
Well, you're gonna tell me that Randy Moss or Ocho Cinco and these guys weren't gonna, Terrell Owens. Come on, these guys, if social media had been around, imagine.
Oh, well, social media was around with Chad Ochocinco. He did his own reality show, didn't you?
Towards the end, yeah. Child Please.
Child Please. And he had
his own app.
Me.
I might have downloaded it.
My thing is this. I'm willing, like, if you remember Darryl Strawberry.
Mm-hmm.
Darryl Strawberry, the guy got his act together. You know, it's a lifelong struggle for the guy. But he's trying his best to get his life together. If AB is doing that, I wish him well.
Right.
I don't want him on the Bucs.
Right. I do too. But Rick, I don't think he's getting his life together. I think it has to come down to where he hits completely rock bottom until he realizes it. And maybe he never realizes it. That's just my opinion. I'm not sure if he's getting his life together.
I don't know. He's been out of the news for a while now.
Yeah.
In a good, as far as
it's a good thing.
Craziness.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he's not on the team. Well, that's the reason why he's not on the team at this point. But who knows? Everybody deserves a third or fourth chance, I guess, in the NFL these days.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I would rather, speaking of third and fourth chances,
mm-hmm.
I would rather have Josh Gordon. That's a guy I would compare him to Darryl Strawberry.
Right.
Same kind of thing. Or you feel for the guy. You can tell the guy doesn't want to have the problem he has. He struggles. He's trying. you remember, Dexter Manley was the same kind of thing.
Right. Well, there's two differences, though. Josh Gordon is a guy that likes to smoke a lot of weed, and now the NFL has kind of, been lax on it, so you feel bad for him. But
he was doing a great job last year too, and then the unexpected death of his brother kind of, threw him for a loop and got him down and depressed. And he turned to one of the only things that he knows makes him happy.
Right.
It's kind of a terrible situation. But I've been touting the Josh Gordon rock, since. I think he'd come in here and spit nicely as a fourth, fifth wide receiver. We saw what happened last year when Godwin and Evans both went down. You had to rely on Perriman and Scotty Miller, who kind of stepped in admirably, but you don't have a Perriman this year. You do have a Tyler Johnson, but with a shortened offseason because of COVID, and you don't really know what he's going to do, having an insurance policy like Josh Gordon. You bring in another weapon who has chemistry with Tom Brady for the earlier parts of the season. If it takes the rest of the team to kind of get it together, he'll come on a minimum contract. I think it's worth taking a flyer at. I'm really on the Josh Gordon bandwagon, more so than the Antonio Brown, but the money is going to concern and the other antics that it's going to come on with him.
Yeah, I agree with you about that. As far as I'd rather have Josh Gordon than Antonio Brown. I don't want Antonio Brown. I really did not call it here.
I
to
know.
say, gosh, I want Brown. I absolutely do not want Antonio Brown on the team. I just think. It seems like, okay, fine, he was a prima donna, but the wheels came off the wagon with the guy where he was having all kinds of problems with, legal issues and beating up movers, and just something happened to the guy for about a year. And then it just seems like that's all stopped.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, it's got all the earmarks. It's got the smell test of somebody who got off their meds.
Yep. Well, either that or he definitely took that hit in Cincinnati. You'd be familiar with that organization. Yeah. And he's never been the same since after that hit. But again, this came back from years, and it's not only about that stuff. It's about, not having his father in his life. And that's one of the things that drove him. But it's also one of the things that if you look around the NFL and you see this in society with single parents, if you don't have that father figure, it doesn't always work out that way. Hate to say it. Hate to offend people, but that also has to play in it. It has to play in it at that point.
You're absolutely right about that.
I mean,
you stick Antonio Brown back into the limelight, and back into a situation where he's got the money and he's got the hanger-on crowd,
right?
And you don't know if that's going to be a bad thing for him. Same with Josh Gordon. So that's
exactly
you really got to hope for with all that.
Exactly.
Anyway, sorry about that, Colin, and bugging you guys tonight.
Rick, you never bug me. That's Rick Hughes right there. Of course, one of the newest writers here on Bucs Report. Thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate you. All right.
Yep. Have a good night.
All right.
Check out the cheap seats.
Yeah, definitely. From the cheap seats, and of course the Audible tomorrow night with Joshua Cole Allen, my guy right now here on the Sports Web. Let me see what this text. Okay, I don't know. Somebody's texting me here, but let's go back out to the web heads here, and I'm getting called. Let's see. AB has surrounded himself around solid people trying to get help. Okay. I read that again because I can't believe that's actually a text message here. From what I'm seeing, training camp won't start on time. NFL Players Association wants the players to have security. I agree with you on that. Looking good, Josh. Best virtual edits video. Does NFL need this season? Needs this season to happen. I agree. I think Bucs fans need this season to happen. I mean, the Super Bowl is in Tampa. Hello. Wow. Quan slander. Never thought I would see it again. Look, there's no slander about it. I mean, you turn on the film, you could see how many tackles he's missed. You could see how he over pursues. I'm not telling you anything you already don't know. So I get it. You're maybe a Quan Alexander fan, and that's okay because now you're a fan of one here in Tampa because he's a 49er. But I tell you right now, if you have the decision to make as a general manager and you're playing Madden, who are you going to take, Quan or Devin White? Take a Devin White all day long. Sorry. So Peter is a Quan hater. Nope. I'm a truth teller here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook. Of course, being live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And of course, part of the Landry Football Network, Chris Landry Football on Twitch. Definitely check it out. Subscribe. Quan, not better than Devin, no doubt, but he was a leader on the defense. Of course, there's always younger goons that guys, I guess I don't think he's saying goons, that come out. And don't forget, we got Quan in the 4th round. Congratulations. You got Quan in the 4th round and you got what you paid for. He was a leader of a terrible defense. I mean, everybody, who's a leader of the defense? Of what? What did that defense do with the Bucs? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You had Levante David, you still couldn't turn it around. The defense would give out. Now you have Devin White, and look, the defense turns around because you got Ndamukong Suh. You instill an attitude. You have JPP. I don't get it. A leader of what? He's a leader of a terrible defense. Big deal. Who cares? I bet Lynch doesn't want Quan to leave. He's a leader. Okay. Don't make me start a Quan there, Peter, says Tampa Prep. That would be funny. Already working after his minor knee surgery. I'm not surprised. The guy came back. I feel like JPP is the equivalent of Kurt Angle. Remember Kurt Angle? I wrestled on a broken freaking neck. I mean, that is JPP right there. He's unbelievable. He's like the $6. He's like the $1 million man. Unbelievable. He's built different. He is. Yeah, for sure. Devin White was injured last year. He should be great in hands with the arsenal of tools he has for sure.
Absolutely.
Great job. Pete says Buck and Blake, of course, Sports Talk 49 on today here on Bucs Report. Oh my God, AB, did he ever say that? Did he ever say what? He said everything I told you just said. I've seen far worse. It's repeated history, Peter. If you think AB is the only player who has said some poop statement, you're wrong. But he didn't only defy his boss and ruin the locker room, but the decision-making off the field. Maybe not on the field because he was productive, but off the field, I can't depend on him. You're paying him millions of dollars. You're putting a guy in your locker room around a young guy like a Lamar Jackson and a Marquise Brown. He's cancer. Stay away. All right. I meant Bucs made $281 million for TV contracts and $119 million for ticket sales. And so fourth, Tampa Prep. Shaking my head. One of our former coaches. Head coach at that. They traded for him. They should have let the Bills have him. They didn't have to take AB too. Agreed. Deontay Johnson, great example right here. Kid is a productive player. He's going to be a superstar most likely.
Because from this area too, I believe.
Right. I mean, the Steelers, they absolutely know. They know how to draft wide receivers in the later rounds. They get it done.
They do. They really do. Hines Ward, Plaxico Burress, Juju Smith-Schuster, the list, Antonio Holmes. The list goes on to the wide receivers that they develop. They're great at it.
Yeah, they are. And they got Brown in the later rounds, too. Josh, any STM updates? My tickets were paid in full in February.
I think we're going to hear something tomorrow. I had one payment left. I called. They told me that my payment will most likely not be coming out tomorrow, which leads me to believe that if your payments were paid in full, you might be part of the 20%, 25%, whatever they're going to announce. Again, it's all speculation. As for me, it's speculating because they're not going to charge me my final payment. I think I'll fall into that category of, opt out, get the refund, or opt out, put my tickets next year. Not quite sure. Again, speculation. Email should be out sometime tomorrow, I would believe.
All right, good stuff. Let's see here. Let's go out. Laugh Out Loud AB will be okay. Great. I absolutely think he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay with doing the music that he's doing everything he's doing. He's got enough money. He lets everybody know on social media he's got it. Awesome. Continue to keep your money. But if I'm an NFL general manager, I'm not signing him unless he shows me that he's a changed man. And even then, I can't depend on him. I'm sorry, I can't. Too much money.
No.
It's not my money, but I'm saying if I were a general manager and owner, I wouldn't do it. Why do you think Tom Brady wants him, Peter? Because he's so talented. And Brady thinks he can keep him in control. But why take that chance at this point? Who knows if it's Tom Brady? We talked to Chris Landry last week, and he felt like it was Antonio Brown's people pushing it. So do you think that there's agents out there pushing players into the league to get conversation going? Absolutely. You know why? He wants to drum up interest. He wants to make money. That's how this game is played.
Randy Moss, AB, Josh Gordon will become the most realistic option. You'll hear his name but from Tom Brady soon.
Going crazy. Shake my head. I wish the Bucs added AB. Me too, so I could talk about it all night long. Tampa Prep. You seem like you
just about done that.
Mentioning all the weapons we have now. Shaking my head. Everyone doesn't have to reach rock bottom to learn. Well, I think he does. In my opinion, I believe he does. And if you think that comparing him to Joe Mixon, which is what some people have done tonight, completely wrong. Joe Mixon messed up in college. He knew he messed up in college. He actually got costed money because he wasn't drafted in the first round. He was a first-round talent, got drafted in the second round, and you haven't heard one peep out of Joe Mixon. You know why? Because he learned his lesson. He did. Sorry. Joe Mixon is a league and he harmed people. Shaking my head. He made a mistake in college and you never heard from him again. You have it. AB turned down going to the Bills. Markets aren't all there. Can't go somewhere he chooses. Let Gordon smoke. Well, not at the time. He couldn't because the rule stated he could not fail any drug test. And here's a player that's absolutely talented but could not stop smoking weed. Couldn't. They say it's good for the brain. I mean, look, there may be some advancements eventually in the NFL where they legalize it and it helps CTE. But until then, it's still one of those things you can't get caught with. You can't. AB better than Josh Gordon. No disputing that. Damn, he took a hit. He may need some help. Thank you, Rick. More buzz than the Charlotte Hornets. That was not Rick Brown. That was Rick Hughes. So nice try there, Tampa Prep. Not the same guy. That is a different Rick. Wow. What has this defense done? Well, this defense played better without Quan Alexander last year. I think Devin White played better without Quan Alexander. I do. Don't you? Did you watch that defense last year, the second half of the year with Devin White? Did he?
I mean, Devin, we're comparing, two different types of players. Devin White is a young, promising rookie who was drafted early in the first round. Quan was a fourth-round talent who, outplayed his draft position. He was still a solid contributor, solid player. But Devin White is a different animal. He was a top 10 pick. He's going to be a stud in this league. He showed that he has the ability to be that. So, I mean, I'm taking Devin White all day. It's not even a question.
Right. It's not a question at that point. How did the defense improve? They seem like they improved overnight with changes. You're talking about Quan Alexander being a leader of a defense that was awful with a Gerald McCoy. Then you move Sue around. You have JPP come back. You add Shaq Barrett to it. You add Devin White to it. And all of a sudden, what happened? This defense matured. The first half of the year, not very good. But that second half of the year, totally different story.
Yep.
So there you go. That's my point there. Let's see. Tampa Prep, would you rather have Devin or Quan? Devin, no doubt. Quan did great. That's my point. He did great at what? I don't understand the fascination with Quan Alexander. For sure, I agree. How? Deontay Johnson from Tampa, Ruskin area. Leonard High School, Tampa Prep football. Chris said, look, AB went cuckoo when Juju was voted team MVP, and now he would go to a team with Evans, Godwin, Gronk, and Brady. I don't see that working out well for AB. He has an alpha ego. Good stuff. Laugh out loud. Quan killed us week 1, though. Oh, he did? I think he had 20 tackles before he got injured. He was banged up. When was he not banged up with the Bucs? He was an injury risk, too. Didn't Quan get ejected 5 minutes in the hit for Jameis? I don't think he had 20 tackles in that game. I think he got kicked out of the game. Pretty sure. He sure did. So all you guys out there, you Quan Alexander fans, it's okay. I know you like the way he danced. And look, he had an unbelievable game when his brother passed away against the Atlanta Falcons. That's probably the best game I've ever seen one player for the Bucs in that time have. And I absolutely felt bad for him. And with that loss, still playing that game, that was emotional. It was unbelievable. But as far as the body of work, I don't think he was as good as you think he is. Just my opinion. Josh, anything else? Any final thoughts here on the sports web? Because we got to wrap it up.
AB is not coming to the Tampa Bay Bucs. Devin White's better than Quan Alexander. Bring Josh Gordon in. Please sign a 1-year contract tomorrow, Shaq Barrett. We want you to stay. Make sure you hit up www.shopsoundsperfect.com to get yourself some Malatronic gear. 40% off for the code Bucs Report. Got some nice headphones, nice gear over here. Make sure you check that out. Shopsoundsperfect.com. And of course, the world premiere of my show tomorrow. I'm very excited. I can't wait. Make sure you guys tune in right at 8. Again, I'll flash it real quick. I'm giving away tomorrow a signed Muscle Hamster Doug Martin 8x10 photo. Tune in right at the start of the show. I'll break down how you can enter to win that contest. I'm excited to bring it to you. I'm excited to bring the show. It's been a couple weeks of trying to get it off the ground, get it all together, and I can't wait to bring it to you. I hope you guys like it. To my boys on YouTube, Dylan, T Prep, Bet Bvev, C. Cole on Facebook, and all the rest of my guys out there. I can't wait to see you and bring the show to you tomorrow. I know you guys have been looking forward to it just as much as I can. And then obviously stay tuned because we have a sports with Peter Blake right afterwards. So thanks for having me on again, Peter. Don't forget, tomorrow, 8 p.m. on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, The Audible with Joshua Cole Allen. You won't want to miss a play.
All right, there you go. Good stuff. Joshua Cole Allen, one of our newest writers here. Again, tune into his show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, The Audible. Let's read these comments, and then we'll get out of here for the night. Let's see here. Dylan, I remember him getting booed off the field. That was crazy. So hot. I was there too early for the concert. AB is going to be in jail or dead in the next 5 years. Hate to say it, but I think you're right, Christopher. Shake my head. They don't think Quan was good or great. Okay, well, at least Peter, you know I'm there, and I am definitely there. Okay, so with that being said, thanks to the great Al Keck with the Al Keck Show. Thanks to Scott Seidenberg of the Landry Football Network, and, of course, Joshua Cole Allen, one of our newest writers here on the Bucs Report. Remember, join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook. Like and follow us on YouTube and Twitter, and, of course, the Twitch channel known as the Chris Landry Football Twitch channel, a part of the Landry Football Network. All right, so on this, I guess, what is it? It is Wednesday morning, and we'll be back tomorrow night at 9 o'clock here live on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Do three things for me on this early Wednesday morning. Bring your passion, bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great night. You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense.